Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to bring the May 12th, 2026 Truckee Town Council meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Zabriskie.
Here.
Councilmember Pallavi.
Here.
Councilmember Romack.
Here.
Vice Mayor Henderson.
Here.
And Mayor Klovstad.
Here.
Thank you.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Hey, thank you, everybody. Now's the time for anybody to make a general public comment on anything that is not on the agenda. You're welcome to step forward to the podium, share your thoughts with the council. Do we have anybody to make a public comment on anything not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that. We'll go on to presentations. So we have a couple of different presentations tonight. I'm going to head over to the podium. And if, let's see, Truckee Kings Beach Family Room leaders and the Sierra Community House, if you want to join me at the podium, that'd be great. Okay, tonight we have kind of a special treat. You get to hear it twice, first in English and then in Spanish. So, whereas children in the Tahoe Truckee region are a vital part of a strong and connected community, and their safety, well-being, and healthy development are strengthened through supportive resources, meaningful connections, and inclusive early learning opportunities that help families thrive. And whereas April is recognized nationally as Child Abuse Prevention Month, a time to raise awareness about the importance of strengthening families, promoting protective factors, and ensuring that all children grow up safe in stable and nurturing environments. And whereas April 30th is celebrated as Dia del Niño, Day of the Child, an opportunity to honor children, recognize their rights, and uplift the importance of investing in their health, education, and overall well-being. And whereas Sierra Community House provides a range of parenting and early learning programs, including parent support group, co-parenting peer support, Mom's Cafe, the Family Room, and community events, which create safe, supportive, and inclusive spaces that strengthen family bonds, build resilience, and foster a sense of belonging. And whereas the Family Room is free, bilingual early learning program for parents, caregivers, and children ages 0 to 4. Rooted in play-based education, it supports school readiness through activities such as reading, music, singing, play, and arts and crafts, while fostering a love of learning and strengthening language development, cognitive skills, and confidence. And whereas participation in the Family Room supports children's healthy development through nurturing care, consistent routines, and activities that promote language, cognitive, and social-emotional growth, while also strengthening protective factors and encouraging inclusive parent engagement across the community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the mayor of the town of Truckee that the town recognizes April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and April 30th as Dia del Niño. Further recognizes the Sierra Community House's family programs, particularly the Family Room, for their contributions to strengthening families and supporting the well-being and healthy development of children in the Truckee community, and encourages residents to support and engage with programs that foster safety, connection, resilience, and belonging. If you'd like to read the Spanish. It's right here.
Thank you. Considerando que los niños de la región de Tahoe Truckee son una parte fundamental de una comunidad fuerte y unida, y que su seguridad, bienestar y desarrollo saludable se ven fortalecidos gracias a recursos de apoyo, vínculos significativos y oportunidades de aprendizaje temprano inclusivas que ayudan a las familias a prosperar, y considerando que abril se celebra a nivel nacional como el mes de la prevención del maltrato infantil, un momento para crear conciencia sobre la importancia de fortalecer a las familias, promover los factores de protección y garantizar que todos los niños crezcan en entornos seguros, estables y acogedores, y considerando que el 30 de abril se celebra el Día del Niño, una oportunidad para honrar a los niños, reconocer sus derechos y destacar la importancia de invertir en su salud, educación y bienestar general, y considerando que Sierra Community House ofrece una variedad de programas de crianza y aprendizaje temprano, entre los que se incluyen el grupo de apoyo para padres, el apoyo entre pares para la crianza compartida, el café de mamás, el cuartito familiar y eventos comunitarios, que crean espacios seguros, solidarios e inclusivos que fortalecen los lazos familiares, desarrollan la resiliencia y fomentan un sentido de pertenencia, y considerando que el Cuartito Familiar es un programa gratuito y bilingüe de aprendizaje temprano para padres, cuidadores y niños de 0 a 4 años. Basado en la educación basada en el juego, fomenta la preparación para la escuela a través de actividades como la lectura, la música, el canto, el juego y las manualidades, al tiempo que fomenta el amor por el aprendizaje y refuerza el desarrollo del lenguaje, las habilidades cognitivas, la confianza, y considerando que la participación en el cuartito familiar favorece el desarrollo saludable de los niños mediante un cuidado afectuoso, rutinas constantes y actividades que promueven el crecimiento lingüístico, cognitivo y socioemocional, al tiempo que refuerza los factores de protección y fomenta la participación inclusiva de los padres en toda la comunidad. Por lo tanto, se proclama, por parte de la alcaldesa de Truckee, que el Town reconoce abril como el mes de la prevención del maltrato infantil y el 30 de abril como el Día del Niño, y reconoce además los programas familiares de Sierra Community House, en particular el Cuartito Familiar, por sus contribuciones al fortalecimiento de las familias y al apoyo al bienestar y el desarrollo saludable de los niños en la comunidad de Truckee, y anima a los residentes a apoyar y participar en programas que fomenten la seguridad, la conexión, la resiliencia y el sentido de pertenencia.
Congratulations. If you would like to come up and introduce yourselves, we'd love to know your names.
Hello, everyone. My name is Irene Lopez. I'm the Parenting and Early Learning Coordinator for Sierra Community House. Also, I'm the lead facilitator for the Kings Beach Family Root Program. I just want to thank Town of Truckee for this incredible recognition. This award belongs to many people, not just us, and I just want to thank everyone who puts their heart into making Family Room possible, our wonderful staff, volunteers, grantors, and the many families participating in our program. The Family Room, it's a free bilingual program. It's early learning for kids 0 to 4 years old and their parents and caregivers. Our program in Kings Beach happens 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and it's Kings Beach Elementary from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we also have Truckee Family Room, which happens at Kids Zone, and that one it's Monday through Thursday. And main lead there is Conchita.
Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es muy largo, pero todo Truckee me conoce como Conchita. Yo también trabajo para Sierra Community House por 16 años y llevo haciendo Family Room por 11 años, un programa muy bonito, lleno de amor para las familias y los niños. Estoy tan emocionada de hacerlo cada día. Me lleno de alegría cada vez que hablo sobre esto. Es un programa muy bonito donde atendemos a las familias y a los niños a temprana edad y no los mandamos preparados para la escuela, pero sí con un conocimiento. Siempre tengo eso en mi mente. es basado a que ellos vayan un poquito más avanzaditos, a despegarse de sus mamás, y por ahora solamente lo estamos haciendo en Kitson. Martes, miércoles y jueves lo hemos estado superando. Muchas gracias.
That was a lot, so I'm sorry if I don't say absolutely everything she said. My name is very long, but everybody here knows me as Conchita. I've been working for Sierra Community House for the past 16 years, 11 years in the family room, and it's a program that I really like. I get full of joy talking about it. We don't quite prepare them for school, but we do give them some knowledge and things that they need and help them separate from their moms a little bit. We're doing it in Kids Zone Tuesday through Thursday, and we keep going with it. Thank you so much.
Can you introduce everybody?
I can.
Okay, that'd be great.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Carla Juarez. I am the Promotora Program Supervisor, and this is my community engagement team. I have Conchita, which you guys just met. We also have Maribel, who also facilitates the family room in Kings Beach. I have Irene, and then we have Pati, who also co-facilitates the program in Truckee. We have Pati, and we have Sharon, someone very special to our team. Without her, I don't, family room wouldn't be what it is right now. So thank you, Sharon, for your daily contribution, even though you are now at a different org. We really appreciate you being here today to support us.
Did you guys want to get a picture together? Why don't we stand up here? Okay, now we get to do a proclamation on mental health awareness. Do we have Yvette Bell? Awesome. Yvette's from Access Tahoe, and Jordan Brent? Wonderful. From Crow's Nest Ranch. Holly Schwartz of Truckee Pride?
I don't think she's going to be able to make
She's not here. Okay.
it. I can accept on behalf of Pride, too.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, great. All right, whereas mental health is vital to the well-being and resilience of individuals and the community as a whole, and fostering understanding, compassion, and acceptance helps reduce stigma and encourage support. And whereas all people experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and with the prevalence of mental health conditions across our nation, it is important for all members of the community to know that specific tools exist which can be used to better handle challenges and protect one's health and well-being. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the importance of improving the mental health of all our residents, and promotion and prevention are effective ways to reduce the burden of mental health conditions. And whereas each business, school, government agency, faith-based organization, healthcare provider, veterans group, and citizen has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. And whereas organizations such as Access Tahoe, Truckee Pride, Crow's Nest Ranch, as well as other community partners are committed to raising awareness about mental illness, promoting effective community partnerships and collaborations to serve the mental health needs of our community, and increasing access to mental health services. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the mayor of the town of Truckee that May 2026 is Mental Health Awareness Month and encourages all residents, organizations, and businesses to promote awareness, support recovery, and help build a healthy, supported, and connected community. Congratulations. Come on up and say a few words.
Want to go first?
I'll go first, We'll save the best for last. I'm Jordan Brandt, Executive Director, founder at Crow's Nest Ranch, and a little offshoot that you might have seen around is called Radical Recovery. That's our peer support service and something we're doing for the general all recovery community. Crow's Nest Ranch, pretty straightforward, outpatient, PHP, IOP, outpatient. If you need to buy a valve, go to our website, go to our outpatient treatment program. They're spelled out there because there's minimal time here. We accept all forms of insurance. We're in contract with, I'm going to say that wrong, Medi-Cal Nevada County, Medi-Cal Placer County. We're working on Nevada Medicare and Medi-Cal El Dorado County. Thanks for the help. And then Radical Recovery is what we're doing to offer more free group recovery meetings, things of that nature. Right now we've got a breathwork meeting. We're working on a music production meeting. It's teetering. And then we just launched a skate meeting because I wanted to skate on Fridays. So we're working on a Spanish speaking one, an LGBTQ, et cetera, plus one, as well as a few other things. And so, yeah, if you guys have ideas or you're part of this community and you want to come to me with any ideas, we've got hours and capability at our office space when we're not running groups and things of that nature, so feel free to. I've taken up enough time. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the support y'all have given me.
Thank you. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you. We appreciate all of your hard work. My name is Yvette Bell, and I believe I'm representing right now Access Tahoe and Truckee Pride, and I'm also a volunteer with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And unfortunately, our founder, Angie, with Access Tahoe couldn't be here today. She had a conflict. But our mission is to really bring a lot of awareness about access to the Tahoe area, specifically for people with physical disabilities and also non-apparent disabilities, which includes things that are relevant to mental health. So this is really important to us, and I do really want to thank the town of Truckee for acknowledging Mental Health Month this month, and it's a really valuable proclamation for our community. And thank you. Appreciate it.
My phone's over there.
We're good.
Cool.
Thanks, Hillary.
You gotta take a picture. It's part of the
And I would just like to thank Andrea, but I don't see her. Oh, way back in the corner. Our IDEA, Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access Program Analyst. And thank you so much for elevating these topics to our council, to our community. We really appreciate all of your efforts in this arena. And lastly, we have an award for an annual Historic Preservation Advisory Commission Award, and this is going to the Star Hotel. I believe Laura has a little presentation. Do we have somebody here to receive the award?
Yes, David Vale is here.
Come on up and, enjoy the limelight.
Okay, thank you, David, for being here to accept this award tonight. The Historic Preservation Program, we've had the recognition program since 2018. This is something that the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission wanted to start to recognize projects and property owners in the downtown who have really kind of gone above and beyond with their projects and shown excellence in historic preservation. We have had 6 recipients so far, so David will be our 7th. The award is named the 2026 Sharon Pace Arnold Historic Preservation Award, named after one of our well-known historic preservation, very passionate people in town. The project is here on West River Street, near the corner of Bridge. We've got some photos from our historic resource inventory dating back to the 1880s, showing what it looked like when it was a boarding house originally, the 1940s. More recently, in 2004, when the inventory photos were taken of the building. So as I mentioned, it was originally a boarding house. It was built in 1867. It was for lumber mill workers at that point. It was converted to a hotel in 1871. It's a Category A, which is a essential historic resource. In 2007, we had a rehabilitation project that was approved that did some rehabilitation of the exterior of the building, added some accessibility improvements, established some new uses, which was residential, office, and retail at that point. And then in 2021, David came back in and converted it back to its historic use as the Tahoe Star Hotel and did some additional improvements to the building at that point. So this is what it looked like before his 2007 project approval, and a screenshot of the plans that were approved with the ADA accessibility. And then these are some photos that Court Levy took for us. I had to include a few because they're so beautiful, showing the existing conditions. And this is the one we selected for our award this year. We're having it printed right now, and we'll be giving that to David at a later date. But we wanted to do the award presentation tonight because it's Historic Preservation Month. So congratulations, David, and thank you for all of your work.
Thank you.
You can have a token certificate until the real one. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I just have been here a long time and done several restorations, so it's nice to be recognized. Thank you.
And I did enjoy a tour of the inside just as you guys were opening. It is so beautifully done. So if you have a chance, I definitely recommend going in and taking a look at what they've created on the inside. The outside's beautiful too, but the inside is just exquisite. So thank you so much for all your hard work.
You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, I need a photo.
Yes. So,
I'll hold this.
okay, and while I make my way back up, I'll turn it over to Jen Calloway for the town manager report.
Great, thank you, and good evening, everybody. It's nice to have everybody here in the audience tonight. A few updates for the town. There's a number of events that the community can participate in the coming days. The first being tomorrow, we have the Truckee Tahoe Homeless Action Coalition reconvening with monthly meetings. The first one will be tomorrow night here in Council Chambers, 5 to 7 p.m., and we'll start reviewing data from the Pilot Navigation Center and understand how that's operating in advance of our 6-month check-in with Council. Next, on Thursday of this week, May 14th, is the first ever State of the Community Address. There'll be 12+ agencies presenting updates as to what the vision for the year ahead looks like for their agencies, including the town of Truckee and Mayor Klövstad. That event will be at 5 to 6:30 at Alder Creek Middle School in the cafetorium. We'll have free childcare. There'll be light appetizers. The jazz band will be kicking off the event to bring in some energy, and we're excited that we have outstanding MCs for the event with our District 5 youth commissioners will be MCing for the night. So if you're looking for hopefully a connected and informed evening, come out and join us for the State of the Community. Also, it is Truckee Day time, so that's happening again on June 6th this year. It's our 23rd annual Truckee Day community cleanup event. As always, it's from 9 to 12, and then the party immediately following in Regional Park from 12 to 2. You have to pre-register for that event, and registration is open, and you can go to keeptruckeegreen.org to follow links and sign up and register. And then lastly, I would like to welcome Carrie. Carrie, if you'd like to head over to the podium over there. Carrie is our military fellow that I have mentioned would be joining us. She is here for the week, visiting from her base in Pennsylvania. Carrie's going to introduce herself and share a little bit about her base, and we'll drive your presentation for you over here, so if you just want to let us know.
Press this. Okay, you can hear me now. First time.
Thank you very much for hosting me with your beautiful town this week. I've only been here a couple days, but I've really grown to really appreciate your town and the beautiful scenery around it and your beautiful community. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes here just to talk about the community that I'm coming from. I currently work for U.S. Army Garrison Carlisle Barracks in Pennsylvania. We are a fairly small Army installation. When you think about Army installations, you probably think of like Fort Bragg or those bigger ones in Texas, Fort Hood. But we're a smaller place in Pennsylvania. We're the only active duty Army installation in Pennsylvania. You can go to the next slide. And I'll pass on the agenda since I don't want to take up too much of your time here, but we are really the only active duty installation here in Pennsylvania. So that means we take care of all of the retirees and anybody related to the military in the state. So we actually service about 70,000 people any given time during the year. Let's see, even though it's about 50K, 60K, somewhere around in there. If you can go to the next slide. So these are just some general facts of just trying to compare it to the operations that the town of Truckee takes care of that I've learned over the few days I've been here. I guess I wanted to point out that we're much, much smaller. So we're only 452 acres. I understand you guys are 34 square miles, right? So we're much smaller. The number of folks on our team, we are about 351 people. We take care of all services that you can think of for the military installation. So we do everything from provide housing, child care, physical fitness facilities. We take care of facilities as it comes to building them and sustaining them over time. We advocate for funding for all of those. And then we also take care of utilities, and we partner with our local communities to provide utilities to us. Plus, we can take care of all the security needs for our installation. So we have a lot going on any given day, even though we are small. You can go to the next slide. So this gives you just kind of a general picture of our little community here. We're inside of a fence line, so you have to have access to get into our installation. But our primary mission is to support the service members that attend the U.S. Army War College. So we primarily have higher ranking military officers here. So that's the lieutenant colonel and colonel. They are there for about a year's time. Some most with their families, some with not, but they're there to kind of take a step back and learn new aspects to become the Army's future strategic leaders. So the way we approach them and their time that we have them at Carlisle Barracks is we try to give them the Carlisle experience. So that means that we're really supporting them when it comes to time in the community. We support their families. We support their time, their quality of life, so they can actually reset, sort of. Many of them are coming from high pressure jobs, learning new skills and getting ready to lead the Army's future leaders. So this is a time just for them to kind of reset professionally and mentally. As a garrison, I work for the garrison commander, so he's like our mayor. One of the things I help our organization with is develop our strategic plan. So our priorities, similar to what the town of Truckee has, we are taking care of people. We're looking at the family. We're talking about the readiness, and also taking care of our installation and partnering with the community outside of our gate. So if you can go to the next slide. We also have very deep historical significance here at Carlisle Barracks. We actually have the oldest building in the Army's inventory, dates to the Revolutionary War. We also have history related to the Civil War, as well as the Carlisle Indian Industrial School. That was a tragic time during our country's history, but it does play a role here, and we play a role in preserving that information too. And there are also many different schools that circled in and out of Carlisle Barracks over its time. So next slide. And this is basically our team. So we support primarily the U.S. Army War College, the Army University, and then we have similar entities that we partner with, same as the town of Truckee. So we care about, we have full service, shopping. So like if a commissary, have contracting services. We actually also partner with the Park Service because we were just recently identified as a National Historic Landmark related to the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, and all of our housing is privatized on post. So we have lots of relationships both inside and outside the gate. And so we're very, just like the town of Truckee is too, at my couple of days here so far, very similar. All the professionals sitting here at the desk, I have cohort or similar cohorts in our organization too. So it's very easy to find similarities between them. And every good organization has a line and block chart. So here's ours. Okay, getting close here to the end. Next slide. And really, our strengths are our dedicated and resourceful workforce. We think of ourselves as a very dedicated team of professionals. We're small, but we're mighty. And I think that drives our ability to be innovative problem solvers, because we don't have all of the resources that these larger installations do. And given the current climate, a lot of these challenges come from reduced resources over time. So I think that forces us to become innovative and solve problems at our local level. And participating in this program with Jen is one of an example of doing that. So we're sharing best practices. I'm picking up a lot of great stuff already. So looking forward to the rest of the week. Okay, and I think, yep, and just real quickly, the things that we're concentrating on in the near future here is that we're growing there. We're growing from the Army War College to the Army University. We're all supporting all of this through the federal government's across-the-board reductions to individuals in service. So we're having to try to find the balance of supporting growth while reducing internally. We also do have the same sort of issues as it relates to surge. I know you guys have a surge with tourism at certain times of the year. We have the same thing as when all these classes come in and leave. So we have a period of the year that's more busy than the other. And we're focused on our priorities, as well as looking forward and looking at opportunities for innovation and technology. So pending any questions, that's my presentation for you. And lastly, thank you very much for hosting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that presentation. That was really interesting and exciting at the same time. Jen, are you finished with your council report?
We are complete.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to open up the presentations for any comments or questions from council. Do I have anything on this side? No? Anything on this side?
Just that what Sierra Community House does is so important to our community, and it's great that we're able to recognize them for their work in a public forum. That's really great. I know they appreciate it, and it's great we did it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I will open this up to public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to make any comments on any of the presentations? Please step right up to the podium if you could share your name, and you'll have 3 minutes. The clock is here to my left. We look forward to your comment. Can you, make sure to turn the microphone.
My name is Al Ferentine. I actually used to work for the town, and I came today to pick up my paperwork for my ADU that I built a year ago that you financed, and I want to thank you very much for it. I have it rented to a couple who went to high school here in Truckee, and one works at Consolidated Electric. The other one just graduated from nursing school, and she's going to go to work in Reno and then come back here to Tahoe, or Truckee, I mean. And I rent it to them for $1,600 a month. They were staying at their parents' house with their dog, and they're just happy as could be. So they thank you, and I thank you. So the reason I'm here is because I was talking to Lynn, and I told her I have a daughter who's schizophrenic, and she was diagnosed schizophrenia 16 years ago. And she kind of bounced around from here, Truckee, San Francisco, and now she's in Turning Point, which is, I'm sure you're all aware of Turning Point, Nevada County Social Services. And I've wanted to come to City Council because I've always felt that the City Council, the town, I don't know why or they haven't. There's a lot of resources maybe the town council can look at piggybacking. The resources my daughter gets is she has a caseworker, helps her do everything pretty much, helped her go to sign up for Sierra College and everything like that. They deliver her medicine to her in the morning and the afternoon. They have a unit at the hospital people who are mentally ill that if they're having a bad night, they can go there, stay overnight, have breakfast, and they have Saturdays, they have a bead group, which for the mentally ill, they have women's group, they have therapy weekly, they have a contracted doctor who comes once a month, and they have a voice group for patients who hear voices. And for a town that has so much money, it's too bad the town can't piggyback some of those services since it's the same county. I don't know what they've had here now, because at the time she was diagnosed, my wife and I and quite a few parents were involved with NAMI, National Association of Mentally Ill, and that was pretty much all they had at Truckee at the time. And I know they have some more services, but I would just, Turning Point is unbelievable. I don't know if any of you have been down there. My daughter was down in San Francisco, and the services they have there is you go in the hospital and they throw you out the door. But Turning Point is unbelievable, the services. And if the town could piggyback any of those, like delivering medicine or anything, that'd be huge.
Al, thank you so much for comments on both agenda items. We're so excited to hear about the ADU.
Yeah.
And thank you for the ideas.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Are there any other general public comments? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to our consent calendar. I'm going to read through them. These are items that are generally considered regular business and non-controversial. 6.1, minutes of the April 28th, 2026 regular meeting. 6.2, adopt resolution 2026-20 for the 2026-2027 CAL FIRE Wildland Protection Agreement. 6.3, Historic Preservation Advisory Commission appointment. 6.4, accept the quarter ended March 31st, 2026 Treasurer's Report. 6.5, approve contract with Broadbent and Associates, Inc. for historic preservation professional services for the 2024 General Plan implementation. 6.6, adopt resolutions levying special taxes for Town of Truckee Community Facilities Districts and Landscaping and Lighting Districts. And 6.7, approve contract for police records management. Do we have any items that council members wish to pull?
6.5, the broadband contract.
6.5 is pulled. Are there any other items, any other council member wishes to pull? Does staff wish to pull any items?
We do not, Mayor.
Is there any member of the public that has an item that they wish for us to pull and discuss? Okay, seeing none, I'll look for a motion for consent items other than 6.5.
I'll move that we approve the consent calendar except for 6.5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, 6.5. So,
I can go ahead
You
and
wanna go ahead
start,
and-
kind of narrow down the issues. So, Laura, what prompted me to pull it is the comment that came in from Yvette Durant, and there seemed to be two concerns that jumped out at me. One was about public notice to make sure people within the historic district, landowners, are aware of the process that it looks like we're going to embark on. And the other was an opportunity asking for a greater opportunity for public participation. I will note that in the comment, Yvette refers to 2 workshops, but also there's a kickoff meeting. There looks like 3 HPAC meetings, town council meetings. So what I'm seeing in a way is actually 7 meetings. I have 2 questions for you. One is the kickoff meeting a public meeting?
So I believe that meeting is just with the consultant and staff to
Okay.
sort of strategize. We do have a planning commission meeting in there as well that the consultant's not scoped for, but so it is 7 total public meetings.
Okay. I see that the broadband proposal refers to there being 235 designated historical properties, but I don't have any idea of actually how many properties or landowners there are within the historical district. Do you happen to know what that number is?
Yeah, I had our GIS person pull some numbers, and he said there's 354 properties in the historic district.
Okay. And then I would love it, if we were able to reach all community members and they were all saying, oh, yeah, they found out about something. There's a cost involved in all that, and it's sort of like you can bring a horse to a trough, but you can't make it drink. You can notify people, but that doesn't assure they're going to show up for anything or have any interest. All of that aside, what do you think would be the best way of making sure people know at the outset, the affected people, particularly the historical property owners, but then the 354 property owners? How can we better assure that they have notice of the process at a minimal cost? I mean, does mailing make sense or not?
Yeah, we do use postcard mailings for a lot of our historic preservation outreach. Those go to the property owners. So I imagine as we start this process, that'll be part of it. We also have our whole communications team that can help with our social media outreach. That seems to be a lot of how people get their information these days. So we'll coordinate with them on seeing how we can, work with that. And then we have our standard, we do our ads in the newspaper. We do, publishing things on the website.
Okay. Is the mailer that seemed to be requested by Yvette Durant something that staff could do without council's direction?
Yeah, I mean, we do postcard mailings and planning all the time.
Okay. Is that the plan here?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
definitely,
okay.
I mean, we periodically send something out to all the historic district owners, just reminding them that they're in the historic district, and then we have, processes for modifications, so
Okay.
they're familiar.
All right. And then my second question is the kickoff meeting, would that provide an opportunity to discuss how to better interact with community members, give them an opportunity to participate, whether it's one-on-one interviews, Zooming, phone calls, or that sort of thing? Is there enough leeway to allow that to happen without council approval? Essentially, can we do it without amending the contract?
So at the kickoff meeting, we can definitely go over different strategies and come up with some things that we think might be successful.
Okay. So there's an opportunity to do both of those.
And just to be clear, I don't think we have one-on-one interviews with property owners scoped in the current contract. So that wouldn't necessarily be something that's in the current scope of work. If that was an expectation, we'd have to go back and understand what that would mean.
Because that would be something that, if it were the consultant having to do that, that would add to the cost of the contract.
Correct.
Okay, that would be something those staff could do without amending the contract.
You mean meet with property owners who have specific thoughts on the inventory updates and the guidelines?
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, because even the commenter noted there may not be that many people who want to participate. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are all my questions.
Okay, do we have additional questions or comments?
I just have a comment, and some of it, you all know that I was in Denver last week as part of my Abundance Fellowship, and we talked a lot about community engagement. And it was really beneficial because I think something that really came out of that struck me was sort of this concept of community engagement across every issue or policy we take up. we have to be strategic, right? Because we can't assume infinite staff resources to go do things like interviews. We can't assume infinite community capacity to continue engaging over and over in conversations. And we really want people to weigh in, and that process fatigue can be a real equity issue for our community. So I think you raise really, really good points. And I just want to say that we really do need to be strategic and calibrated in our engagement.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments on this side?
Laura, you mentioned there would be 7 public meetings or workshops. So I would guess at a lot of those, there would be public comment opportunities. So, well, you might only have 3 minutes. A property owner could daylight specific issues at that opportunity.
Yeah, so some of those will be hearings, so you're right, there will be a public comment opportunity, and then there's 2 public workshops, so those will be structured in a way that we can gather input from community members.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. It sounds like you're still interested in approving this. You just wanted those clarity. Is there any amendment that you're suggesting that we consider?
No, I'm not, because I think, I'm not suggesting an amendment, because I think there is enough flexibility here. What kind of came through to me, aside from the notice, there's 2 workshops. That's the one time where participants should be able to engage in a conversation, because they don't get to have a conversation in front of HPAC or the councils, just comments. And
so those are the key ones to send interested parties to.
Right, right. And so I'm hoping we can have a workshop set up where there is more opportunity for an exchange, where a person can do follow-up questions and that sort of thing. And that seems possible without increasing the number of workshops. Because I have been in workshops where it was really, you just had an opportunity to comment just because of the press of time.
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot especially with Yumi's workshop she's done lately on the housing updates, so how to do those successfully.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. I'm looking for a motion then, sir?
Yeah, I'll move we approve item 6.5, the broadband contract.
Yes, thank you. Is there any member of the public that would like to make a comment on this agenda item? I know you're itching to. Okay. The motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to 7.1, legislative platform update. I just have to say, while Hillary's getting herself set up for this one, I am just blown away at how this has evolved in the short amount of time that I've been on council. It's really extraordinary, all the topics that we cover. It's really extraordinary, all the ideas that staff come up with. And I really look forward to this presentation, and it sounds like council has added a few potential things for us to consider, to amend or add. So Hillary, thank you so much in advance for all your work on this.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here, Madam Mayor and Council, to talk about our legislative platform. This is our annual platform update process, and we've been doing this every year since I think about 2020. So each year we revisit the platform, reaffirm the platform, and take the opportunity to make revisions or additions as needed. And the way the legislative platform works, just as a broad overview, is it's really a tool to help us be efficient in our advocacy and focused on issues that are most relevant and important to the town. So council adopts a legislative platform which has positions of topics that our council believes are important to either support or oppose that could come up at the state level, federally, or even locally. And then when a new bill or issue arises that impacts the town, if it aligns with the platform, that's sort of the fast track path, then a draft position letter or advocacy sort of strategy is presented to our council legislative committee, which is made up by our mayor and vice mayor. and then the legislative committee has the opportunity to approve moving forward on any advocacy, and any letters would be signed by the mayor. So what that allows for is advocacy to happen really quickly. We don't always have time when an issue arises to wait to write a staff report and get it on the next council agenda if we want to make a difference in our advocacy. If an item is not in the platform, we still have an opportunity to advocate for it, but that would go back to the full council, so that takes a little bit longer. So when we do our update each year, we try to anticipate what are sort of new hot topics that are emerging that we might want to make sure we add to our platform so we can be ready to take that fast track through the legislative committee if those arise. It's been a busy year for advocacy already in 2026. Here's just a few examples of the types of topics we've advocated for. The California Disaster Assistance Act, a home hardening tax credit bill, a generator and backup power tax credit bill, a road usage fee study, which is studying what do we do in California when EV adoption gets to a point where our gas tax revenue is continuously declining. So it's a study at the state level of coming up with strategies around what to do next. Opposition to U.S. Forest Service reorganization, and we just submitted comments on the program guidelines for a new vehicle miles traveled mitigation bank program. So a lot of those are bills. Sometimes it's other rulemaking or programs as well. We've also submitted 2 funding requests, or what are often called earmarks. One for the Truckee Library, which we submitted at the state level. We're still waiting to hear if there will be funding in the state budget for that. And then we submitted one for a police emergency command vehicle at the federal level as well. Through our legislative platform, we also submit letters of supports on a regular basis for items that other agencies or partners are doing that align with council's priorities. So we've submitted this year, as just a few examples, a letter of support for Nevada County seeking funding for the Truckee Library, support for the wood energy project at North Star Community Services District, and a funding request for Nevada County Sheriff's Office for a training facility. So our platform update process, this is really a collaborative process. I'm the one who sort of convenes and brings together the edits, but they're coming from staff across the organization. So we started this process back around October when our state level advocate, Kira, was here to visit. I've had meetings with most of our departments and furiously taking notes through that process on what are sort of the hot and emerging topics and things that aren't currently covered that we may want to consider adding into the platform. And then sent out last year's platform to our division heads across the organization and have the subject matter experts in each area revise, make recommendations on things that we should edit or things that we might want to add or delete as well. Here's just a few of the themes of some of the edits that were recommended this year. We made significant updates to the communications, broadband, and technology system. Our technology section. That's really just based on keeping up with current industry trends, including AI, which was not previously discussed in our ledge platform. Emergency preparedness and disaster recovery is always a hot topic for us here. Maintaining local control of revenue generation, including real estate transfer tax, which is an issue we're talking about at the local level and is also being talked about at the state level now. And then state housing mandates, including addressing conflicting state regulations related to housing development, where we see sort of the different departments in the state are not always aligned in what their requirements are and how we can try to address that. We had several great suggestions from council members submitted during the council questions process. So I won't read through all of them here, but I've redlined sort of capturing what some of those recommendations were. So here we have suggestions for edits to some of the positions. If council staff is supportive of all of these, so if council would like to direct staff to make these edits, we can incorporate those into the updated platform as well. And we can come back to these in more detail during deliberation if you'd like. Here's a couple additional suggested edits. We had one to combine 2 of our positions on fiscal responsibility that were a bit redundant, and then a recommendation to remove one of our positions in our housing section on providing a high elevation zone exemption for solar panels. And that's because we've been successful at getting that placed into law, so it's not something we're actively advocating for anymore. And then we had a few additional suggestions by council for topics that aren't currently in the platform. So we have those for your consideration tonight as well. The first is passenger rail service and how we can continue to advocate for funding for expansion of rail service, roadless area conservation, and parking ticket enforcement, which was a topic brought up in the next agenda item that we may want to consider adding into our ledge platform as well. So with that, staff's recommendation is to adopt the proposed updates to the 2026 platform or provide direction to staff regarding amendments to the platform. Again, staff are supportive of all of the amendments I just outlined on the last few slides. Happy to bring them back up if you'd like to take a closer look at them in deliberation.
Thank you so much, Hillary. We may ask you to do so. Let's go ahead and start with questions. Councilmember Pallavi?
I just have one, and I apologize for not submitting it with our Q&A. It was my days, the last 2 days got a little busier than I planned. But I don't see, as I was going through both the recreation and community services one, anything that's more broadly public lands focused. I know we've been doing some public lands advocacy work, somewhat individually, somewhat as a town, but almost all of them are more specific to either the Forest Service or the Tahoe National Forest, and we don't have sort of a general public lands statement. Would you agree with that?
I just did a word search for public lands. We do have a few things about reducing, eliminating fire protection services on public lands.
And we have a few on like U.S. Forest Service funding in particular, but we aren't really talking about some of the other things that are going on. So,
which
just
unfortunately they are
grand.
They are topics of conversation.
Yeah.
I think your statement is accurate.
Okay, that was my question. And then I guess my question would then just be to our fellow council members. I think Vice Mayor Henderson was the one who proposed the roadless rule. So maybe an effort to combine. I have some language here, but if you'd be open to either combining something like that, I don't know that we need them to be separate, but some type of consolidation there. Yes, cool. Those were my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Romack.
Thank you. I appreciate all the questions and suggestions in advance, and thank you, staff, for compiling those. Just a question, Hillary, you highlighted this helps us with writing letters. And I feel like this has evolved over the time we've all been on council. Do you see any reason we could or should be doing more besides letter writing? More council members being involved in advocacy days or staff or things like that that would help, move some of these forward potentially?
Yes, I think that's always helpful to have FaceTime and do things more than just letter writing. That's something right now we have Kira down in Sacramento who does a lot of that on the town's behalf. That's something that I'm hoping to do more of in my new position and was in Sacramento a couple weeks ago doing that. But would love to find opportunities for council to do more down the hill as well. Or when we have legislators come here visiting, we have, I think we have a couple visits coming up in the next couple of months as well.
I'll just add on to that. I think that's a really kind of evolving question. As Hillary is fully transitioned into the assistant town manager role, that's one of the key aspects of that role. As she mentioned, she did go to legislator days down in Sacramento this year. We do have a couple of representatives coming to visit here. The council has previously discussed the option to weigh in on more local topics as well with our other agencies and trying to figure out what the graceful way to do that is in terms of what is within our authority or discretion to provide opinions on to our fellow public agencies. So some of that will be topics you'll revisit in your retreat, in the council retreat that will happen end of February, or end of January, early February.
Great, thank you.
Excellent question. Thank you for asking it. Councilmember Zabriskie.
Just following up on Councilmember Pallavi's question about public lands, do you know what other federal lands, the next closest federal lands besides forest land, where they are? And I assume there would be BLM land. You know how close those lands are to Truckee?
We have Army Corps lands, just outside of town boundaries in Martis Valley area.
Right.
That's probably the closest. And then there's BLM lands, certainly just over the border in Nevada. I think those are probably the closest areas.
Okay. And then on state lands, we have the state park, of course. Do we have other nearby state lands?
Nothing immediately comes to mind, but there probably are.
Okay. The preamble on the legislative platform does mention the compliance with existing town policies, about how this is intended, as I read it, to comply with existing town policies. I admit I'm concerned about this becoming a document that is expanding town policies while calling it a legislative platform. I guess my first question is there any check that goes on when we see a measure come before us that might deserve a comment, whether it does actually conform to a policy we've already adopted, either in our general plan or through our council priorities?
I wouldn't say that there's a formal process of sort of reviewing through the full general plan.
Yeah.
Generally, when a topic comes up, I'm working with the staff who are sort of the subject matter experts in that area to check in before we submit a housing position letter or emergency services, for example. So sort of relying on that expertise.
Okay. And then the other area that I'm concerned about is the mayor mentioned how this document is growing. I kind of take that as a concern. For me, that's a concern, how quickly it has expanded and is becoming, for me, a hydra-headed document. It's as if we want to comment on everything under the sun. I'm exaggerating, of course, but it's as if we're wanting to comment on everything under the sun, and then I'm seeing what seems like a lot of repetition or items that overlap with other items. Like local control, we have this broad thing about, we want local control, we don't want any other legislation affecting us but our own, and then it's repeated in specific items throughout the document.
Is there a question with this?
Yeah, what I'm getting to, is there a way of, or any effort planned to edit this down to try and eliminate the repetition and make the document a little bit more coherent before it becomes incoherent?
Councilmember Zabriskie, I think that's a question for us to deliberate on.
We have not received that question from.
Can I get a little input from
We
staff?
have not received
They're
that
experts.
direction from council, so we don't have that plan. That's something you could provide
That's something
direction to.
we can discuss and deliberate if you
Yeah,
wish.
I'm trying to get staff's opinion on this. I would anticipate we're going to discuss it, but they're experts. They draft this stuff.
I think the previous direction we've received from council and the direction we've headed has been along the lines of expanding and including topics. So we haven't contemplated narrowing this down in any fashion. If that's something that the council would like us to do, we can do that and provide an update in the retreat or earlier if so desired.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Any
Yeah,
other
no-
questions?
No, that was
Okay.
it.
Vice Mayor Henderson.
Comments, but no questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'll open this up to public comment. Is there anybody that wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll move forward to deliberation. And if you don't mind, I'll jump right into that topic. I reflecting back on this process from my perspective, we had a very, very small legislative platform initially, you're right, and it has expanded. And I think that expansion really occurred when we adopted the general plan. And we, as a council, felt like we had a roadmap and a planning document that we had all agreed to and our community had contributed to. And I see most of the legislative platform items are branching out from that document and incorporating those goals and aspirations. So I really appreciate the expansion. It is great to do that editing and remove things that we no longer need to advocate for, like the solar one, and we consolidated some of the communications and technologies. But that's my personal perspective on this. And while we have that topic up, if any other council members wish to weigh in, you want to go ahead and start, council member?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I'll just, I agree with that. And I would say that's why we sit up here every year to review the legislative platform. Like, we've gone through this process for several years now to make modifications to the platform and to agree to it as a council. So I think that's why it has gotten to the place it has gotten to, because we all agreed this time last year that we wanted different things, whether changed or added. I agree, Councilmember Pallavi, with some of your consolidation around public lands, and I support that. And I'll just sort of add on while I have the mic that I think there were a lot of great suggestions in the questions and sort of comments that came through in advance as well. So I support several of those. And then I just want to make one comment, just because this concept of local control just came up, and I think there are a lot of times when that is really important. But because it's also in our legislative platform, I was sort of reflecting on that. And I just want to say local control isn't a value in and of itself. And I think it's really important to remember that. It's a governance tool. It's really about what local control is for when there are things that impact our communities that are hyper-local. STR regulation is a great example. Those impacts were really local within our community, really felt local control as a tool for STR regulation made a lot of sense. When we think of things like housing production, the supply it's a regional system, right? It's not just Tahoe, but it's across the state. And when we end up with a lot of local jurisdictions vetoing different types of housing within their jurisdictions, I'm not saying we're doing that, that's what creates a statewide crisis. So I just wanted to provide that framing since it is in the ledge platform as well.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I also, in sitting up here and thinking about it, I'm going to add the comment that a couple of years ago, this agenda item happened to coincide with when Kira was up here. And so I met with them in advance because at that time, I shared a concern with you, Councilmember Zabriskie, that this was a really big list. And my question to them was, did that make their job too difficult to advocate for all of our items on the list? And they said, actually, the contrary, it made it much easier because we gave them such granular clarity that they could really address items at a very specific level with that level of detail of how it applies to us. So just a little bit more context to that. Councilmember Romack?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I was going to kind of bring up the same point, why, again, I'm comfortable with expanding it. I see it as a valuable tool for staff to then be able to act quickly, exactly as Hillary said. If we have it outlined and staff knows that this is part of the platform, then it makes it easier to move things along. Or maybe when Hillary's down in Sacramento to speak to something that, it empowers her to do that easier than if our legislative platform is too broad. And then, I would point out, I was the one who asked the question around supporting funding and planning efforts around the rail service. And I really appreciate staff's response that you highlighted a few of the goals in the general plan. So I think to your question earlier, Councilmember Zabriskie, I know that staff is doing a really good job of vetting these through a lot of the policies and plans. So, I have faith that they would not say, sure, let's add it if it was something that was in opposition to an already adopted policy.
Thank you. Councilmember Pallavi.
Yeah, I think I agree with the majority, most of what's already been said. I was a big proponent of this with Mayor Klofstad back when we first put this together. I think it's grown to be an incredible document that we all actually rely on in a lot of different ways. I know I very much appreciate when I forward on things that I'm interested in taking action on, and I get a super quick reply back, yep, we're already on that, or yep, that fits, or, no, we're meeting with the mayor and vice mayor to determine if we are going to send a letter. So I think just the predictability of the process that we've created is really just a great way that we've grown as a community over the years and advocated for the things that we need to advocate for as a small town. So I don't have any problems with any of the edits that were already provided. I did draft up, I'll just read it briefly, and then I'll explain the last piece, which you guys probably will all get. And then we don't need to wordsmith it here. I think if there's agreement more at the general purpose of it, we'll let staff, they can wordsmith what we need them to and figure out that. I was going to put under oppose is where I think it would fit best, unless you turn it positive at the end of the day, which is totally fine. Under the recreation chapter, which was, right, I just had it up, but I lost it. Wherever the recreation and shoot, sorry. I was just right there and then I lost it. No, keep going. This has gotten very long. I'm still scrolling. After planning and land use, recreation and community services. It would be an oppose any actions that diminish, and I can send this to you afterwards as well. Any actions that diminish, threaten, or challenge the value, continuity, funding, or research of and for public lands at the regional, state, or federal level, with a caveat, other than actions that enhance our local community's infrastructure that have council's support. And I think that's important as we're talking about the school board and some of our other public districts, because otherwise we might come out in opposition to a housing project that the school board's trying to do if we adopted that a little bit too specifically. So my goal was to sort of allow for public land, if that's what we're considering it, to sort of somehow still have a carve out, at least within our town borders, if that makes sense.
My only question on that, I think I'm fine with everything you say, except is there something in there that has it relating to Truckee? As it affects Truckee?
I mean, I said regional, state, or federal level. I think the other things all relate to Truckee, and it's hard to say relates to Truckee when we see things like the roadless rule or just a BLM administrator that is looking to do something completely opposite, or Forest Service funding that gets consolidated to Salt Lake City, and all of a sudden we lose local jobs. So it was hard to tie it specifically to Truckee. I think we're not taking the way that we've experienced this in the past is it still takes a council member to sort of say, hey, we want to take a position on this. And I think that's sort of like the partial caveat. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I'll just say, because there is something in our ledge platform does not mean that we provide a comma in everything that's related to that. So that's why it goes through the mayor and vice mayor to make sure there is some importance or tie to our community with that. That was part of the reasoning for that.
I'm thinking of future mayors who are really concerned about what's going on down in Fresno or in the Stanislaus National Forest. Are we going to start becoming a municipality that's writing advocacy pieces for areas that are removed from our own? And I don't want to see that happen. I
don't either.
I feel the broader we go, the more diluted our influence is.
That's the intention of having the mayor and vice mayor. So you have two council members that have to approve. If one of them were to not approve, we could bring it back to the full council on an agenda item, or simply not send a letter. And then in the future, if you if the council is experiencing that as a concern or that's happening, we could change the process, or it could be revised at that point to
Well, is there agreement? We want it to relate to Truckee in some way, or are we going to become the Sierra Club of municipalities in California?
I think that's more generally covered under the purpose, as you called it, the preamble. But perhaps we could make something a little bit more specific in there.
Hillary can
Can I
point out
add
the
to that?
language.
In the beginning of the process section, it says that once a determination is made that a legislative proposal may impact the town or a policy area of concern to the town, or that the town should initiate legislation on the issue. So it sort of suggests it should be something related to the town, and certainly staff aren't coming forward with recommendations to weigh in on something in Fresno.
Because I agree with you, and I think that needs to be a blanket to all of these legislative items. It's not just the public lands.
I'm fine with Dave's thing. We've got it in the preamble, and that, I agree, that's where it should go.
Okay, great.
But I quibble on other things, so as long as I was talking, I'll just go ahead and get it out.
Go right ahead.
On local control, I really see that as just a device to avoid the substance of a proposal, because we don't talk about local control when we talk about the town having been the leader in getting state legislation which prohibits HOAs from banning ADUs anywhere in the state. We were fine to forget about local control then, and much of our climate policy derives directly from state laws that provoked us, and a lot of our housing laws were provoked by state action, even though there are state housing laws we don't like. So I don't like the idea of broadly embracing local control, because even we don't subscribe to it. And then finally on the language, I hope at some point we can simplify and reduce the number of words, actually to make the platform more effective, clearer for all of us.
Thank you, Councilmember Zabriskie.
And I like the edits.
Okay, so are we all in agreement that we like the edits that we at least saw on the in the presentation? Does anybody have any additional comments on the one added by Councilmember Pallavi?
No, but can I just highlight local control? That, reflecting on the presentation, I know we were both with George Tickner, one of the founders of Truckee and the Truckee Way, and just, Truckee citizens became a town wanting local control. And so I think it gives us the opportunity to push for things at the state level that we really believe in, as well as try to protect the things that may be unique to Truckee. So I understand what you're saying, but I think local control is part of why we became a town. So I do think that is something that should be included in here.
Thank you. And I do think that, again, because we have this process where this comes to the mayor and the vice mayor, or the entire council if it's not identified here, that you're right, there are nuances. There are times where it's great to have the state have a hammer that we don't have to use, right? Because it's the state's hammer. But we can make that decision as we're considering our advocacy on these items. Because there are some side benefits to some of that state control, right? Unintended consequences. Yes.
Are we saying we want to change the words in the platform? Like, is that what I was hearing? Or
Just the only recommended changes were, at this point anyway, unless you have something new, are the ones that we saw on the screen and the additive one from Councilmember Pallavi. Okay. At this point, I think the rest, at least the three of us, are feeling comfortable with the process, making it specific to Truckee.
Okay.
And local control going through that process as well.
Okay, I think that makes sense. It's just I'm hearing a lot related to local control and what that means, and I want to be really, really clear, just for me personally, there have been many times when I've supported local control over different things, and it's where decisions are local in their consequences. I don't support local control as a mechanism for simply blocking regional solutions to regional problems like housing, like climate, water, grid resilience, things like that. So I just want to be really clear about that.
Yeah, and I think those are all things that are well defined in other areas of our platform, either support or oppose, as well as our general plan. So we're not going to do something that just because we want local control if it's not advantageous to our community. Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, and again, that's the process. That's why staff doesn't send them on their own. That it comes through our legislative
And we've had a lot lately. Hillary, thank you. You've been doing so much. I mean, I don't know how many we've signed in the last couple of weeks, but it's been a lot. You've been very busy.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments or deliberation on this? Okay. We do need a motion, correct, to adopt this?
Yes, please.
Make a motion that we adopt the proposed updates to the 2026 legislative platform, including the ones that you showcased on the screen this evening.
I'll second.
The added, and Pallavi's
And the added by Councilmember Pallavi.
I will second that full motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Great deliberation and debate. And thank you for capturing the parking ticket one that I threw in at the very last minute. So appreciate you. You were on it all the time. Okay. 7.2, I think we can get through this before our 7 o'clock break, if that's okay with everybody. Adopt resolution 2026-21 to introduce ordinance 2026-08 regarding town's financial policies. Nikki, what an incredible volume of work this was. I'm not sure how you did that while still keeping the whole, while the whole organization was, kept running. It was.
We have a great team, that's how. So the way that I structured this is I do have a slide for every policy, but I'm not going to go through them. These are hyperlinked, so if there is a question on a specific policy, we will go to that page. Otherwise, these are some future actions we're going to take in relation to financial policies, which include discussion with the council for a council approval workaround for grants with a tight application turnaround period. So right now we're asking council to approve a policy that says that staff only need to come to council if we're applying for a grant amount that's more than $100,000. Otherwise, they won't come to council. In the rare instance that a grant has a really tight turnaround and we're not able to make it to council, we're going to come back to you guys with a policy on how we might handle that workaround. We are going to bring back the user fee philosophy for a review before we go into a new user fee study, so hopefully spring next year. We will do more regular reviews of our purchasing limits to align them with CPI increases. We're going to do an additional review of the capitalization thresholds for our assets through a partnership with the Government Finance Officers Association. They sent us a request and said, do you guys want to test our new analytical tool? And we said, sounds cool. So we might bring some changes based on their recommendations in the future. And then also a travel requisition policy update. So I'm going to go back. Otherwise, I have the recommendation. So you guys decide where we want to go.
Okay, great. Why don't we jump into council questions? Councilmember Zabriskie, do you want to kick us off?
The only, I want to follow up on the question I posed on the penalties. This is a very small thing. The way I read the line about penalties being set by the council, and then there's a line about they shall have no relation to the cost of service. That sounds absolute, and actually it is kind of nice. Well, certainly at law, you can't have punitive damages, need to have some relationship to compensatory damages. This is sort of analogous. I just think it'd be better to say that they don't necessarily have to comport with cost of service or qualify that in some matter.
You could say something like shall not be required to have a relationship.
Thank you, council. Can we do that?
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, we'll make a note of that.
Okay, do I just need to update the recommendation?
We can just do as edits.
We'll do that.
Yes. We do as edited. Vice Mayor Henderson, any questions?
No, the questions in advance were wonderful. I have a feeling several were from you, so thank you, sir.
Councilmember Romack?
Just, I know this was highlighted, this really came out of our operational assessment. Can you just remind us a little bit of why? I think this is great, but maybe just short sentence on, why the operational assessment identified this as something that would be important.
The town's financial policies were last updated, I think, in 2007. So it was definitely time for us to take a look and make sure we are still aligned with best practice. It's really great for us to have publicly facing policies so the public can understand how we're going to approach them in terms of monetary activities. And we did not have a specifically adopted internal control policy, although we were following the COSO framework. By council formally adopting it, it's setting a tone from the top that you guys do support any and all actions to ensure that the town is protecting and using its assets wisely. So this is a culmination of all those efforts.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Pallavi, any questions?
Yeah, just one clarification. Is the GAN limit that we've been talking about on and off for the past little while, that's a state law. That's not a town policy that we're referring to, right? So it's not something that belongs in any of our policies.
It is a state law.
State law. Got it. Thank you.
That's it. Okay. I just have a couple of questions. There seemed to be this kind of back and forth with our 5-year financial projection period versus 10 years. It sounds like we're totally good moving on the 5-year, but is there a benefit to adding something to the bike rack for developing a 10-year financial projection period? It seemed like staff was kind of hinting about that, but it wasn't clear that it was really necessary.
My perspective is that I think we are achieving all of our financial sustainability goals with our 5-year plan. There are always benefits for a longer term planning horizon.
Mm-hmm.
It would involve staff time, and so there would be trade-offs about what else we would be giving up in order to achieve a longer year financial planning horizon.
I'll just add that obviously none of us have a crystal ball, so even the 5-year projections, will we make our best attempt? That if we went back and look, we aren't where we thought we would be 5 years ago, and the longer we spread that out, the further away from what's going to be realistic is going to happen.
That makes sense. Okay.
The reason I put that in there is because it's the minimum period requested by GFOA, so I didn't want to say like we can't go longer because we typically try to be more than the minimum in anything that we do here at the town. So I did want to throw that out there.
Yeah. Okay. And it sounds like we added the out-of-state DMV reciprocity for parking tickets. This has to be something that other jurisdictions deal with. I mean, I know we're right on the border, but there's plenty of other towns that are too. So hopefully there's some opportunities out there. You'd mentioned the League of California Cities.
I think it would actually have to be something that the state of Nevada would have to allow us.
Because that's our primary source.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And then for grants, if we approve the mayor, vice mayor authorization process that's recommended here, I had asked it just before the meeting, how would we daylight that to the public for transparency? So can you share your response to that?
Right. So we aren't recommending that right now. We're recommending that we will come back with that and with that exception at a future date. But likely the main way that would be daylighted is through the budget. Otherwise, council could recommend, it needs to come to the next available council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple different. We could do a retroactive presentation at the council meeting. It could be in town manager reports. We do have all of our legislative advocacy letters on our webpage. We could add another one for grant, titles of grant applications. There's a couple different options for that.
Okay. And then thank you for clarifying. I didn't get this question in time, but for my fellow council members, I asked about the local contractor's preference, and they clarified for me that this isn't for construction and public contract code. It's more for purchasing, right? And I think that's brilliant. I love supporting our local suppliers and community members. So I love this policy. Thank you very much for indoctrinating it. Okay, with that, we'll open this up to public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make public comment on this agenda item? You guys are a quiet crowd tonight. Seeing none, we'll bring it back for deliberation. Councilmember Zabriskie, I'll go back to you.
I think your last question and comment to Nikki embodies my view of this policy, the work she's done, recognizing that we'd like to be able to look at our local suppliers first. I feel this is a really excellent job you've done, Nikki. I am quite
I don't want to
happy
take credit for the local vendor preference because that's been in place since about 2007, I think. So I appreciate that you guys are recognizing, but there's a long history of people who put their efforts behind that one.
It nonetheless illustrates my sense of appreciation for this update to that policy. I think it's a vast improvement, and I'm glad you carried that point forward.
Vice Mayor Henderson.
I'm very supportive. This is just amazing. There's like so much detail in all of these different policies. Thank you so much for everything. I can't even imagine how much time it took. You're making us much more sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Romack.
Ditto what they said. Also, just the few slides you've just shown us quickly, like you and your team put a lot of time and effort into all of this. So always appreciate you making really complex financial things easy for us to understand. So great job on that. And then thanks for highlighting again, kind of the purpose behind this. And I think it's good for the community to remember that, again, that the operational assessment is going across our entire operations. And here's another way that we're implementing some of the important things we learned. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pallavi.
If you were referring to her efficient use of staff time during this particular agenda item, I also absolutely commend that. I think that was a wonderful way to do it, and everything that everybody else has said. So yeah, keep up the good work.
Yeah, this is really extraordinary. Again, the operational assessment was the launching pad for getting this done, but I know that there's so many benefits that we're not even recognizing or highlighting here, but I know they'll come through in future meetings as we navigate these policies and enjoy the efficiency that you are creating for your staff and fellow town members. So I'm also very supportive. If there's nothing else, then I will look for a motion.
Let me just update this so that it reads correctly. So.
Okay. With amendments. With edits.
Yeah, with the one word change suggested by our town attorney, I move that we adopt Resolution 2026-21, approving the town's financial policies, introduce ordinance 2026-08, amending Truckee's Municipal Code Title III Revenue and Finances in support of the financial policies, and finally direct staff to apply these policies prospectively with no retroactive impact.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Passes unanimously. Okay, well, we're a little early, but the council priorities usually take quite a bit of time. So do we want to take a break here, or do we want to keep going?
We do the presentation and then break if the council's amenable.
Yeah. Okay. Jen, presentation.
We can do that. Carmen and Aaron are coming up. I'm just going to switch the slides here.
So to have my two favorite annual items on the same agenda is really exciting. I love the legislative platform, but I also really love the quarterly work plan update. So, yeah, yeah, my nerd alert. So these are great. Oh, your mic is off.
We're going to give you 3 items because Carmen is going to present on single-use water bottle ordinance update and how that's worked. So,
fantastic.
So this is our quarterly update for the period ending March 31st, 2026. I'm going to go through a few very brief slides on the work plan and some of the notable accomplishments for this quarter. A little bit of an update with our transition with the Keep Truckee Green website to a .gov platform. And then Carmen's going to jump in and give an update on where we are with single-use water bottles. That was requested by the council that we come back and do a 1-year update. So we've incorporated it into this. And if you want more information, you can let us know and provide you with that. Aaron's going to drive for me, so thank you very much. Some headline accomplishments. We're very excited after a couple years of the council asking about the Youth Commission. Andrea and team have gotten, the application period is currently open. You can find that on our website. It's open through almost the end of May 29th, and the goal is to have that started in September. And so we're very excited about that new start in the work plan. Our emergency services division, working with Tahoe Donner and many of our staff and our consultant, have advanced the emergency egress study that is both town-wide and there's a second study focused specifically on Tahoe Donner, but they're combined efforts. And that is on target to be completed in 2026 as well. Of course, you'll remember that you recently, these are overlapping slightly, it's not quite through the end of March, but recently adopted the homegrown housing updates as well as the density bonus incentive programs and have transitioned to working on funding and revenue sources for those programs. And then lastly, council also adopted the STR building decarbonization token program. So staff is working on getting application materials out for that program, and it'll be up and running soon. Next slide. In terms of this quarter's story, it's really the proactive wildfire mitigation and the work that's happening in emergency services around evac studies. But again, highlighting the contractor heat pump air conditioning training is complete. We had over 50 registered contractors attend that training, so it was pretty well received. Our Donner Lake transportation strategy improvements, it's actually a new item, but it's capturing all the work that was done down at Donner Lake in terms of speed reduction, the bikeways that wasn't in the work plan, so and that's been updated, capturing that. The language access plan is also in process. You're scheduled to receive that back. Believe that'll happen in June. If not, it'll be right after. The IDEA committee is reviewing that tomorrow, I believe, or maybe today, but this week, and that draft is looking really good, so we're excited to share that with you. And then homegrown housing, that should not say new, that should say complete, as we discussed. Before we hop into the next story, we have several new items this year, or this quarter, that we've added. In the housing area, we've added a new goal to address senior housing. That was something that came up in several of our conversations in the past, actually, year plus. So that has been added, and staff are anticipating working on that. IT has added some modernization to our server infrastructure. We have pavement maintenance program added. That was discussed during our last budget meeting. And then boulder replacement as well in the infrastructure category. And that's the boulders that have been placed in areas where bending was happening, that it was not permitted. So we were just acknowledging that work that was done. We also have a number of items that are complete. The town data accessibility and resiliency with Box, not necessarily complete, but it's migrating into, it's replicated with another item in the infrastructure priority area item 1.2, which is also about data resiliency. So we had a little bit of a duplication there. Our downtown railroad crossing feasibility study, you've approved that, and that's kind of tabled at this point. The road maintenance sales tax polling is complete. Our Chamber of Commerce contract has been renewed. We've worked really collaboratively with Truckee Fire on the fire inspections for our STR program, and that's working well. And of course, Dalbayumawe Park. The IDE Action Plan Council has adopted. The IDEA committee, there's a standing committee that's meeting regularly. A density housing program, as well as homegrown housing, rooted renters, also complete, or at least the additional cohort has been approved. The contractor training, our single-use water bottle ordinance, and then our climate GHG initiatives has been started, and we are working on that. So that was a very quick, high-level review of the new updates in the work plan. If we go to the next slide, we just wanted to give you a heads up about the KTG website migrating to our .gov platform.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. As Jen just said, I just wanted to give you a quick update about the Keep Truckee Green website migration process and some of the impacts that we can expect from that as it happens this summer. So as you probably know, Keep Truckee Green and the police department are in the process of migrating our website content from our separate domains to a section of the Town of Truckee website. And this process started when IT asked us to transition to a .gov domain for increased security. And when we applied for a separate .gov domain, we were asked to justify why we couldn't just use a section of the Town of Truckee.gov site, and we couldn't come up with a good reason. So after discussions with other town departments, we decided it made the most sense to migrate our content to the town website. We'll have our own separate section of the site with a Keep Truckee Green landing page, and you can see a tiny draft of that on this slide. And it'll be similar to how the Ready Truckee section of the current site is a little bit distinct. Unlike the process that the police department is going through for Keep Truckee Green, it's requiring a much more comprehensive reorganization, restructuring of our site, as our current structure is a little bit more complicated and it utilizes a lot of custom-built modules that unfortunately can't be directly migrated over. We also have to create some room for new programs that will launch this year, primarily our recently approved building decarbonization programs, as well as accommodating some pages that are currently in an existing sustainability section of the town website. This website migration wasn't something that was originally in our work plan for this year, so it has created some impacts on our other work plan items, and you'll see that noted in the work plan updates in this item. In terms of timeline, we currently expect content migration to begin in June. During this time, there will be some impacts to our ability to update content on the current site, and this will impact our launch of some new programs just until the new site is live. We've also found out in talking with Civic Plus as we've embarked on this project that there are two custom-built portions of our current website that we're unfortunately unable to migrate directly to Civic Plus. That's our searchable recycling guide and the sustainability dashboard. So in order to include these in the new site, we would need to rebuild them with third-party tools and then embed them in Civic Plus because Civic Plus can't directly accommodate those types of content. The recycling guide is the most visited section of our current website, and it's part of our core services support, so it's really important for us to have this live when the new site launches. The good news is there do appear to be some third-party tools that are built to do just this, very similar to our current tool. And so we've been looking through some of those, and we do believe that we'll have a solution in place before the new website goes live. Our sustainability dashboard, unfortunately, it's a little more complicated. Civic Plus can't host dynamic charts, and so we would, again, need to look for a third-party dashboard or data visualization platform in order to replicate this on the new site. So that's just a much bigger project to kind of rebuild from scratch. And we've also received feedback from our sustainability committee recently that the current dashboard metrics should be revisited and revised to better reflect the current scope of our programs. So we think that's best to do at the same time. We don't currently have developing a new dashboard in our work plan, but it is something that could be added to the bike rack or as a potential future project at the discretion of council. But we did want to make sure you were aware that that would temporarily be disappearing from the site due to the migration. So there were no surprises. And with that, I will turn it over to Carmen to talk about single-use plastic water bottles.
Hello, Mayor and Council members. I'm Carmen Lopez, a Sustainability Program Analyst with the Neighborhood Services and Sustainability Department, and I'm here today to present on the single-use plastic bottle and paper carton ordinance update. So, Council approved the ordinance to be implemented on April 22nd, 2025, which was last year on Earth Day. And this meant that plain water in single-use plastic bottles and paper cartons under a gallon are no longer sold in Truckee. So what can be sold are flavored and carbonated drinks in plastic bottles, as well as water in gallon or larger jugs, glass bottles, and aluminum bottles. And of course, we're always trying to show that reusable bottles are the best way to keep Truckee green. So the ordinance was adopted by Council because single-use plastic bottles are among the top 5 types of litter in the Tahoe Basin. And in a staff litter audit, over half of single-use plastic bottles were water bottles. We also have incredibly high-quality tap water here in Truckee. And not to mention microplastics, which can be found in single-use plastic bottles, can be harmful to both people and the environment. And there are also similar ordinances in the region, such as South Lake, that this ordinance was modeled by. And before the ordinance went into effect, about 63 businesses that were known to sell large quantities of bottled water, such as grocery stores and convenience stores, were visited in person to be handed out flyers about the ordinance and for town staff to answer any questions businesses may have. Above is a picture of local high school students from the Envirolution Club who helped us engage with those businesses. A letter informing about the ordinance was also sent to every business in Truckee several months prior to the ordinance being implemented. Town staff also engaged with the community through tabling events, such as the food distribution event at Sierra Community House, to inform the public about the upcoming ordinance. After the ordinance went into effect, town staff revisited the businesses that had been selling single-use plastic bottles prior to the ordinance to ensure compliance post-ordinance implementation. Most businesses that had been visited in person were compliant. Those that had not had simply misunderstood some aspect of the ordinance but were very cooperative and complied once their mistake was pointed out. From in-person visits, town staff have observed that businesses are now selling water in containers a gallon or larger, in aluminum bottles, water in plastic bottles with some kind of essence, of flavoring such as fruit, or water with added electrolytes. And I would like to note that these are all still in compliance with the ordinance, since the ordinance is specifically plain water in plastic bottles that can't be sold. One of our supporting programs is the Mobile Water Filling Station Reservation Program, and this is a free program available to special events. It began in late 2024, and the first full year was 2025, and it has been pretty successful. The program itself includes 3 mobile water filling stations, which you can see pictured, and as well as 2 5-gallon water dispensers. For the 2025 stats for our first full year, the mobile stations were used a total of 26 times, and the water dispensers were used a total of 34 times, for a total of 20 events, including 9 Truckee Thursdays. Another one of our programs is the Water Bottle Filling Station Grant Program. So this is open to large and small businesses, nonprofits, and public agencies within the town of Truckee. And as of April 22nd, 2026, 20 stations have been installed, with about $28,000 awarded, and 3 more are currently in the process of being installed. And I just want to note that over the years, applications have dwindled. We don't think this is because people don't like the program. We just simply think there's been a saturation point. So it will be coming to an end this June 2026. And another wonderful resource that we have available is the Take Care Tahoe water filling station map, which Take Care Tahoe has so kindly allowed us to place locations on. And so this is to map free and accessible tap water locations in the Truckee Tahoe area, with 42 locations just within Truckee. And we always are adding more when we're aware of them. And to help spread the word about how amazing our tap water is, we have Truckee Mountain Filtered, which is an educational initiative between the town of Truckee and Truckee Donner Public Utility District. It was launched this past August. The website for Truckee Mountain Filtered, which you can see pictured in the top left, has been made available since August 2025. It contains facts about Truckee's tap water, the water filling station map, and other resources for businesses, special events, and short-term rentals. One of those resources includes a Truckee Mountain Filtered brand kit that contains photos, facts about the tap water, and other collateral that can be easily copied and pasted into virtual welcome packets for visitors. And so that's for hotels, short-term rental property owners. The brand kit has been shared through the short-term rental quarterly newsletter and a presentation at the Visit Truckee Tahoe hosted hoteliers meeting on May 14th, so this week, has been scheduled to gather more feedback. Posters that can be placed near water filling stations are also available online. You can see that that's the largest picture there with the fun H2WO slogan. And so those can be printed and readily available for people who would like those, and we also provide those for free as well upon request. And there are also decals that can be placed outside of buildings to indicate to people where they can access free tap water. And so that's the picture there on the lower left corner. And other collateral includes fun stickers, such as you can see on the water bottle there, that can be placed and to let people know about our wonderful tap water, as well as a physical brochure about the water filling station map for those who may not have easy access to the online version. For next steps, due to decreasing number of applicants, despite continued outreach, the Water Filling Station Grant Program will be closing this June 2026. Town staff will continue running the Mobile Water Filling Station Reservation Program. Town staff will also continue mapping new locations on the water filling station map. And town staff will finish developing any remaining materials for Truckee Mountain Filtered and continue to integrate the initiative into existing community engagement materials and events when appropriate.
Okay, just a couple more items to close up the work plan. We always touch on some of our other work plan options in our priority areas, but our core services that we're working on within the town. We're really excited about the completion of our applicant tracking system in NeoGov and now the onboarding of our new employees in NeoGov. It's more efficient and saving on a lot of paper and a lot of waste. We're also excited that we have switched dental plans and are fully in compliance with GASB 101. Next slide, please. In terms of bike rack items, I will note there was one error in the staff report. There are actually 3 new items in the bike rack that have come out of previous council discussions. We tried to capture those, and tonight you would be affirming if we've captured those correctly. That is the collaboration with Caltrans on the potential DPR pedestrian crossing improvements at the Shell exit 184. We're going to have some more information available for council to discuss at the budget workshop on that topic, but we have memorialized it here in the bike rack, considering adjustments to the river setbacks, the overlay requirements, and then festoon lighting. That was the one that was missing, I believe, in the staff report. Recognizing that the senior housing, the new task that is in the work plan that used to be a bike rack item, so it's moved, we're recommending remove it out of the bike rack and into the work plan. There's capacity to work on that. And then there is a request to move the B City designation out of the bike rack and into the work plan. Attached to the staff report, next slide, thank you. Attached to the staff report is a proposal from TINS, Tahoe Institute of Natural Science. We do have representatives here, Heather and Sarah, in the audience, so they can answer any specific questions that you may have and may want to provide public comment on this item. TIN's provided a pretty comprehensive proposal. Councilmember Zabriskie and I met with them. They have a good understanding of what would be required for the B City designation and are really asking for a representation to sit on the required committee. That can be a council person or a staff person. And then the other ask from the town is to incorporate bee city pollinator designation policies when we can, but it doesn't have to be the highest priority. So they're asking for up to 10 hours a year of staff time. Should the council choose to move this into the work plan, we would likely designate our in-house beekeeper, Ms. Hobbs, who is a beekeeper, as the dedicated staff person for those, assuming you wanted to go with the 10-hour request. So that's one of your discussion points tonight. And then the last slide is the recommendations and direction, and we are here to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Great comprehensive presentation. I know we all have questions, but let's pause those and do a quick 5-minute break. It's 6:58, so we'll come back at 7:03. Thank you, everybody.
less time on developing these annexes and rather reviewing and perfecting these annexes. And so that's caused some delays and pushed it back a little bit further, but we still plan on pushing this full steam ahead. And I do believe that May is still feasible for getting an RFP out for this project.
Okay, that's really helpful. You might just want to stay up there. And what are some of the risks to us with the delays? Because I know the target dates now look like they're moving from 26 into fiscal year 27. Are we, just like what are any potential risks that we might be concerned about or we need to mitigate with these delays?
So I wouldn't say risks. I mean, the faster that we can get these done, the more prepared we are. And really, you can't predict when a disaster might strike with recovery. I mean, of course, wildfire is one of the most prevalent hazards that we prepare for, but a catastrophic earthquake could cause significant recovery challenges and debris management challenges. So the sooner we can get these in place, the lower we lower that risk on how well, as an organization, we can to address those issues. However, from I don't know if you mean from a risk liability standpoint, it's really kind of best practices to have these in place. And so we're working towards that. And you can't predict really when they can happen. Unfortunately, from the timing of this, not likely to have these finalized prior to peak wildfire season, but at least hopefully get this off the ground that if something were to happen over peak wildfire season, we can at least have some solid bones to run off of to navigate these processes. And a lot for more context behind recovery and debris management. It's really a great guide for our agency to be able to navigate the public assistance process with FEMA. Additionally, debris management that is also a lot of times managed by state departments, but really help line up our ability to target maybe certain areas that we might need to store debris temporarily, working with our sustainability office on, the solid waste and what that looks like, developing agreements potentially on where, temporary long-term storage of debris might go. So the sooner we can address those, the better, absolutely.
That's really helpful. And among those three, the tasks 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3, it looks like they're all pushed to fiscal year 27, quarter 3, quarter 4, but is there prioritization within those, or do they really work like they are integrated documents and they really work hand in hand?
They really are integrated documents. And, another thing that I meant to bring up as well is something that personally been keeping a close eye on is there's a lot in flux with FEMA right now and what happens. And so last week, the FEMA Review Council just presented their final report, was able to watch that presentation and capture. And there are some great recommendations, but there's also going to be some challenging ways to implement some of those recommendations. And it's a lot to be learned on how those recommendations get implemented. And so we've been keeping a close eye because a lot of the recovery and debris, even debris management planning, might change depending on what that outcome is. And we function off the Public Assistance Program Guide document. It's currently version 5. And so that's what we operate on. And of course, that's still in place and that's what we'll plan for. But we want to make sure we're positioned to be able to pivot if things change.
That's really helpful context. Thank you so much. And then on this might be sort of building on Councilmember Zabrisky's question, but there were several wildfire mitigation tasks with no status. And is that because they weren't planned? Or, so for example, fire adapted landscaping, fire adapted building codes, home hardening incentives, town hall defensible space all show blank status fields. Was that intentional as well, Jen?
Are you for example, task 4.1?
Sorry, in the wildfire mitigation, I'm looking at like home hardening incentive as an example.
Can you just give me the task number for that?
I think that was 4.3, unless I wrote it down wrong.
Yeah, that one does not have an update because you'll note the target date was fiscal year 2027, so we weren't planning to start that.
Okay.
There's some that have like 4.5 on that same page.
Yeah,
has an update from
hold.
September 30th.
Okay.
So that's the most recent update that we have.
Okay.
That's why you'll see either a blank if there's nothing, or we'll leave the most recent one if there's nothing new.
Got it. So those blanks were intentional is what I'm
Yes.
hearing. Okay.
Yep.
And then on James, I might be turning back to you. On the EOC training, tasks 5.1 through 5.4 were also all delayed and sort of attributed to the hiring timeline, and I know we have our coordinator on board, which is amazing. But can you just tell me, are there other reasons for those all being delayed too? And is it similar to what we heard before, or is it different?
Very similar. So our emergency services coordinator, Justin Freiler, previously served as the state's deputy superintendent of the California Specialized Training Institute, which is Cal-OES's emergency management training program. And so he developed much of the training criteria that actually every public employee goes through in the state of California. And so knowing that we had his expertise coming on board really pushed back some of those so we can lean on those expertise and have these trainings really developed at the highest of standards. Justin has already put together what's called an integrated preparedness plan, which hasn't been finalized yet, but essentially view that as a 2-year training plan that's built to grow based on our prioritized needs. And so that's the long-term document that we have in the works. In the short term, we have a number of trainings scheduled. So we have an EOC training scheduled, I believe it's June 4th. It's the first week of June for our town staff. We'll also bring in some partner agencies to really focus on our preparedness levels to staff an emergency operations center. And we wanted to get that done in advance of fire season. We're also conducting an extensive tabletop exercise in partnership with our information technology division here at the town and also our communications division to really address a sudden loss of IT support systems and how we would deal with that. And then in the fall, we also have a functional exercise, which think of that as like a big EOC, everybody kind of in here at Town Hall and in our Emergency Operations Center and Prosser Room, hands-on, doing an exercise, going through that process. And so we do have significant trainings outlined in the short term, and then we have the integrated preparedness plan to lead us for that long-term planning.
That's really helpful, and maybe this is more of a comment, but I think like that type of, we actually have these things planned. It's not just that it's delayed to, like, I think that's deliberation. I'll say a couple more questions, so thank you so much. Okay, different topics. The building records public portal, it shows 7% complete since December. This was the moving building permits to the public portal, and it looks like it was 7% before, I think, and between the December and March reports. And it looks like the narrative for it is almost sort of word for word. So I'm just curious if there was a mistake made there, if it is stalled, what's happening there?
No, we're in the process of doing that. There was a miscalculation from the previous work plan update, but we're committed to working on it every single day. It's just a very laborious process, and staff capacity is not giving us the most time that we need to put into it. But it is at 7% right now.
Okay, thank you. Similarly, the, let's see. Sorry, I have really detailed notes. Contract automation workflow, task 3.4's, the March 31st update is also almost a verbatim copy of the December 31st, 25 update, including like last week of January language, first few weeks in February language. So I'm wondering if this was inadvertently duplicated or if it's also stalled.
Sorry, and I'll update that as well. We are still in the testing process of that phase. We wanted to integrate DocuSign into the process, and it took some time to communicate with DocuSign to get it to communicate with Laserfiche, but we are sending out testing to our contract admins this Friday. So we'll have a further update in the next work plan.
Yeah, those kinds of updates are really great. Thank you. Last, I think, too, I'm sorry, just trying to go through them, but the e-bike share program, I know that, our pilot has obviously concluded. We don't have any formal funding commitments from any partners. Summer's approaching.
So at the last council meeting on consent, we approved the budget for that. It's mostly grant funding that the transit team found. In transit dollars, there's about $7,000 in general fund. That will get us through this next year, next season. And then There's a grant application that was also approved through the Transit Division that would include the possibility of purchasing the equipment from B-Cycle and finding a local operator. If we were to be awarded that grant funding, we'd explore that option. Otherwise, we'll be looking for a new provider.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. And sorry if I missed some of that. Last one, biomass. It says 2% complete, but there's a June 2026 target date.
So biomass, largely for the town, has kind of been on pause. The original, we didn't update the target date because we really don't know what we're going to be doing with that at this point. We haven't made really a lot of progress from a town project. Town staff participate, and the biomass working group, the regional group, council member or Mayor Klofstad is part of that as well and participates. We've been on hold for any possible relocation of other public agencies down along Jorger to understand if that is moving forward. When we're building a new building, it makes sense to incorporate it with that. And we'd hope to be further along in understanding if that was going to be a possibility.
Great questions, great clarity. Thank you. I have a few more. Erin, forgive me, but when you were talking about the website migration, it just perked my ears. You said something about we would need to ask for this work plan item to be added. What was that and why? Is that the sustainability guidelines or the recycling guidelines or the
It was for
dashboard?
this rebuilding the sustainability dashboard. That's a pretty large project. We'd have to essentially start from scratch and to rebuild that on a new platform so that it could be displayed on the new website. And as I mentioned, as part of that, given the input we've received from our sustainability committee, that it's worth kind of revisiting the metrics we're tracking. We think that's worth kind of looking at as a larger project. And so that's not on our work plan at the moment, so that would need to be added to the bike rack if that's something council is interested in us moving forward with.
Okay, I will talk with my fellow council members. I feel like deja vu. I worked hard to get that up there the last time, so I'd like to try to preserve it or reinvent it. The contractor training, it sounds like it was very well received, but do we have this available on demand, or do we plan to repeat this course, or what's, since we invested so much time and energy in developing that, like what happens with it now?
Sure. So the contractor training program is operated by Sierra Business Council and Balance Point Home Performance. It's one of our grant-funded initiatives from a California Energy Commission grant. That they do have at least 10 of the webinars that they've offered through that program available to stream on their website for contractors who've signed up for their program. I'm not sure if this particular one has been added yet, but I can look into that. But our goal is to make these, the online content available through recordings to contractors that may be interested in viewing that in the future.
So there isn't necessarily a certification that goes along with that if you complete all of the courses, or do you?
I'd have to find out exactly what they offer. I know that contractors who've completed the full training series of those webinars can be listed on that program's website as having completed that, but I would have to check with Sierra Business Council about what sort of other formal recognition they have.
Okay. And then just going back, is there a way that we can preserve the recycling guidelines and the sustainability dashboard on the old website until we're able to rebuild them? Can they just both exist for this period of time?
So the recycling guide, we think we can replicate with a third-party tool. This is something that is, there are several platforms that provide a very similar tool, and it's very easy for us to migrate. So that we think we've handled would be live before the new site is active. We've been talking with IT about the possibility of keeping some parts of our old website active. We're not sure if that's even possible. It's certainly not recommended because it complicates the ability to just redirect traffic to the new site, and it would require us to invest a lot of staff time to systematically dismantling the old site to kind of isolate a portion of it and and then with making sure we're not having other content still accessible that's out of date, things like that. So we don't think I wouldn't recommend moving forward with that. We certainly want to have a dashboard on the new site, but just want to recognize it. We weren't aware, I would say, from the start of this that Civic Plus couldn't support that. So that's been something that we've discovered during the process, unfortunately. And so we would like to find a solution, but it looks like the solution is a third-party sort of dashboard or data visualization platform and rebuilding the dashboard in a new system.
Thank you. And I know this is not part of this update because this is ending March 31st, 2026, but I understand that we are in the soft launch phase of our cloud permit. Would you care to provide any short update to the council on that item?
I can, and we have our consultant in the audience that if he wants to add on to anything or you want to ask him any questions. But we have soft launched as of May 1. It truly is a soft launch. It's the very simple applications that are coming in, that are going through the system, finding the little, quirks here and there and working through those. But I would say the feedback by and large has been it's been working really well. The permits are being, those easier permits are being submitted and issued, and in some cases in 15 minutes. So there's only been a handful of them. There hasn't been a lot, but it seems like those that have used it are happy and excited about it.
Fabulous. Okay, thank you. I'm going to open this up to public comment. Are there any public comments on this agenda item before we move to deliberation?
Button. I got it. I did it. Good evening. Mayor Klovstad, members of Town Council. My name is Erin Casey. I'm the CEO for the Tahoe Housing Hub and Housing Trust Tahoe. And I'm here just to ask that you consider adding something to the bike rack, specifically around tiny homes on wheels, and taking a look at those as potential solutions for affordable housing and exploring any potential code changes that might make those more feasible in the town of Truckee. I have had some preliminary conversations with some of the staff. I spoke with Lynn, I spoke with Danielle earlier today, which I appreciated. I know there's a lot on the table, a lot of priorities, but I think that it would be unfortunate if we couldn't at least have the conversation and take a look at the code and the possibility, because it's not recognized in the plan anywhere. The code that you currently have does differ from surrounding jurisdictions' code when it comes to tiny homes on wheels, and that makes them more expensive and challenging to do here. Now, you might want to leave it that way, so I'm not asking you at this point to make any changes. There may be good reason for that. But we do have several that are going to be installed this summer in Placer County, so those could serve as demonstration projects for members of the council, for members of the community, to get a sense of what they look like, how they could function, how they work for affordable housing. So given what that might bring to the region, we'd like the opportunity to be able to continue the conversation, work with your staff to consider how that could work, if it makes sense, and what code changes may need to come forward, if any at all. So again, just to clarify, not a request for any change, but a placeholder for a conversation. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin. And we have our patient TINS representatives here. We didn't have any questions for you, but I welcome you up to the podium if you'd like to make a comment on your proposal.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Hawkins-Smith. I'm the Outreach Director for the Tahoe Institute for Natural Science. And with me today is Heather. She could also answer any questions that you guys have. A few months ago, we went to tea, and we, as the pollinator and bee expert here in town, and gave presentations on insects, specifically bees, in their classroom. And they let us know about their attempts at making Truckee a bee city. And we went back to the office and just looked at the different steps on making Truckee a bee city. And we thought to ourselves, we already do a lot of this because at the Tahoe Institute for Natural Science, we are a research-based institute. We work under Dr. Will's PhD, and we research not only pollinators, we're also known as the bird people in town. But in addition to that, beyond research, we also teach kids in every classroom here in Tahoe Truckee Unified School District and also in Lake Tahoe. And we also provide a lot of outreach opportunities for the public. So going through the different steps of how to become a bee city became more and more apparent that this is already something that we do. In terms of public awareness of pollination and giving lectures in town, in addition to forming committees. I mean, we can bring together scientists we already work with to be able to put together a council. There's a few other pieces that we wanted to bring into the city. We're already providing pollinator and bee education in the school system through Next Generation Science Standards. So we can expand that as part of the Bee City initiative. There's just a lot of different things that were exciting to us. And so we didn't want to disregard what T has done in the past, but we wanted to build upon and enhance their previous proposal and make sure that scientists and also local organizations that are already providing a lot of what Bee City is asking for could bring to the town of Truckee. But a couple pieces within that proposal include we do need city council backing this idea and having basically a yes. And then the second piece would also have somebody on city council sit on our committee. And we went through and realized that a lot of the stuff that we are already doing or would like to do, we can summarize and provide to city council, and they can be more of a liaison. But we were hoping that it would only be about 10 hours per year based on our projected timeline for how that would work for city council staff time. I know that there's been a block in the past of, there's been a lot of students that have been inspired to have bees be part of our city council, and that's really fun, and we want to make sure that that energy is also received within the council. Is that beep? Sorry.
That's the end of your 3 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Anyways.
But you're welcome to finish your thought.
It's lighthearted. It's fun. We already are doing this. There's a lot of things that go on in this town, in this world, and this is a lighthearted way to bring awareness to our environment and also bring education to the public and our local students. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate your time. Okay, bringing it back for deliberation. Councilmember Romack.
Can I do just a follow-up question on the comments?
Absolutely, Councilmember Zabriskie. Sarah, would you like to come back up?
Sure. And I had just, actually, it's not for Sarah. It was following up. Do we know what these tiny home on wheels refers to? Is this park model RVs or home kits or what?
Yes.
Maybe.
Park model RVs.
Park model RVs.
I think there's been enough conversation with Ms. Casey.
Okay. And then this is just a question for Chief Renfro. Is there any need for assistance on volunteer police recruitment? Do you see that as a need?
Recruitment, yes. We're always looking for volunteers.
How many do we have now?
We have 5.
Okay, thanks. Those are all my questions.
Okay, now we'll bring it back to Councilmember Romack.
Sure. Thank you. I really like this setup. I know that we've started now where we have the work plan and then there's an item that we get more in depth on. So I appreciate that and excited to see the results of single-use plastic ordinance. And appreciate the hard work you guys are undertaking to migrate over to the same domain. But I think that's really important that we're all together. And appreciate the work plan. I think I'm excited about this opportunity for the Bee City. You know, I asked that question because I knew it was tied to the T kids who have been before us before asking about this. So it seems like a great opportunity to utilize the talent and expertise of TINs and support something that we've heard kids be excited about before. So I am definitely comfortable moving forward with that. I mean, it sounds like, again, 10 hours of staff time a year, not too concerned about that. So would definitely be comfortable with that. You know, I will say I heard Aaron Casey's presentation to the North Tahoe Community Alliance a month or two ago, talking about some of the work they've been doing on the Placer side with tiny homes on wheels. So definitely open to putting that in the bike rack. I know that our staff is super busy, so I understand this is not something that we're moving to right now, but I would say it seems like something to at least have on our radar, and maybe the continued work that they're doing in Eastern Placer could help us also understand challenges that we see. And so it could inform us, let's take it out of the bike rack because we don't want to do it, or wow, this has been really successful. Maybe it is worth putting into the work plan. So I would be comfortable putting it into the bike rack for now, kind of as a placeholder to monitor how things are moving around that. And I think that's it. Again, thank you to staff for all the time and energy. And I will just say, I know there were questions about more updates and could there be other things? And I know it's always the balance of staff time. Like, we want this to be a really good document, but also just us always being conscious of not asking them to just have to write more in a document just to say no update. So I would just say I kind of like the way it is now. And now we all know if there's nothing there, it means no update. And then we can ask more questions at a council meeting. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to confirm, you're comfortable with moving the senior housing into the work plan as well?
Wholeheartedly.
Okay, great. Councilmember Pallavi.
Yeah, thank you. I just had one slight comment on the single water bottle ordinance, and I think that is the fact that I would say more so in the summertime, especially in the aisles. I'm at Safeway more often than any other grocery store. I think there's just a lack of information and signage specifically at the grocery stores, and I would just highly encourage us to find a way to message that better, because the de facto response from people just randomly in the aisle when they're looking for water bottles, and then somebody say, "Where's all the water bottles?" and then the next person comes up and is like, "That damn blah 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 blah," blah, and it's not usually the most positive response. So just maybe just if there's any way that the grocery stores are inclined, I know that they have to accept that kind of signage too, but it might help them because they probably will be able to field fewer questions from their customers. So that was more just a side note on that particular item. Take it however you want. No need to reply. It's all good. If you have, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
I do want to note we do have sample signage available for stores that specifically explains why there aren't water bottles on the shelf, so we can look into
I just want
reminding
to bring
the
it to
businesses
them and
that
just
is
be like,
available.
here
Yes.
you go, right? The likelihood that they're going to be like, oh, that's great, or even you talk to the right person. So just side note. Back to certain things on the work plan. I'm going to take them in slightly opposite order. I wanted to add on to what Councilmember Romack said, and I think I appreciate Erin's comments specifically on tiny homes on wheels. She and I have also been having offline conversations about sort of other broader strategies, primarily around private sector engagement and a few other things that they're working on. So I might take your suggestion and maybe broaden it, maybe for staff's purposes, that is simply like, can we have some, and this is for the bike rack as well, I'm not going to say it, but whatever it means to have further and deeper collaboration with the housing hub to align around broader regional strategies might be a better way to frame all of this rather than picking off one or two or three things. It would allow us to engage with the hub maybe in a more meaningful way as they find things on their end that are working or not working, versus having it be like, nope, we're only going to look at tiny homes on wheels, right? When there's a lot of other opportunities, I think, to be working together. And then maybe we could allow our staff that flexibility to engage with the housing hub and kind of come back to us and say, hey, it is tiny homes on wheels might be next, right? Or, hey, we're working on this like really robust private sector engagement plan. Like, that's all you talk about, Dave, is engaging with private sector. Like, maybe that's, the next piece. So I think it provides a little bit more flexibility than as specific as you got, Aaron, with it. And maybe gives our staff a little bit more flexibility too in how they execute that. So that would be just my edit to your suggestion. At the minimum, I'm totally fine with adding tiny homes on wheels. I just think we have an opportunity to do better. I do think we need to put updating the food truck ordinance sort of at least back in the bike rack. I think there still seems to be significant confusion in our community, especially how that differs from the sidewalk vending ordinance that we just adopted. And while it's minor in terms of who it affects at the food truck level, it affects our community a little bit more broadly in expectations and sort of execution. And I'm, again, fine with bike rack on that. I'm supportive of adding the Bee City. I want to thank Tins for taking that lead and going to meet with the folks at T. We've had at least 2, maybe 3 presentations from them. So not only do I believe it'll be a low lift, hopefully, from our internal team. Appreciate that it fits really well into your wheelhouse. Love the collaboration. And I think for all of us, just showing youth that their voice matters, I think that goes a really long way. And kids are going to be like, oh my God, they actually adopted that. So I think that might be just a great opportunity. And then all of the other movements and updates I am supportive of.
Excellent.
That's it from me.
Thank
Can
you
I
so much.
ask a clarifying question before the rest of the, so we know what we're
It's your
deliberating?
job. Yes.
On the further collaboration with the housing hub, you referenced that being in the bike rack and then mentioned staff could come back with, these are opportunities to collaborate, which would imply it's not really a bike rack item. I mean, I think maybe the direction is you would like us to interact with the housing hub and understand what they're working on so that.
Yes, to the degree that it's not completely in the work plan. We're talking to Aaron. We're working with our partners regionally. I take it maybe tiny homes on wheels is the next thing, and that might be great. But I think maybe just being a bit more broad about our engagement and sort of where we see our easiest path to success and start to chip away at little things like that.
I might suggest that some of that might have self-mitigated in that our newest Director of Neighborhood Services and Sustainability is a board member of the Housing Hub. So
even better.
He may bring some of that naturally to his new position.
Yeah, awesome. So however we can integrate some of those things, wonderful. I'm supportive of, and I will take staff's suggestion if the rest of 3 people on council support whatever that is.
Thank you for that clarity.
Yes.
Councilmember Zabriskie.
Just going back to the gaps in some of the updates, because it is called a quarterly update, I think it would be helpful to actually have some remark, even if it's to say no change. Because examples for me in workforce housing were status on home repairs, the no housing loss downtown, Grace Crossing, rezone status, and then Edmonds Loft status. We had an update on Edmonds Loft in December that it was working on the building permit, and I assume it's still working on getting a building permit, but it would be nice to actually know that that's still the status. Presumably the no housing loss downtown had nothing to say because the development code itself hasn't been updated yet. It would be nice to know that I should refer to the item above for an update on the no housing loss downtown. So that's on the gaps and the updates, and how it'd just be nice to have something there so we know someone looked. On B cities, now it sounds like I'm going to be competing with both Hillary and Dave to be the town representative.
Sounds like a
yours.
Okay, all right. I was the one that put the damper on the T kids. Their faces fell when I said, this is too much work for the town. You'll have to do it yourself. And so T has stepped in. That's great. I'd say let's move forward on that. On the tiny homes on wheels, we have tiny homes at Don Lac out by Donner Lake. Sunset Inn changes. We're all about replacing mobile homes with tiny homes. And then out there at Coachland, the owner is bringing in real fancy tiny homes on wheels. So those are at least 3 places. Old Forty has tiny homes on wheels too, if we're talking about park model RVs. I think it's something we should move ahead on to explore more, but we've already been dealing with this for a number of years. This is not new to Truckee, and I agree with Dave. We should give it a regional look, try to engage the region on this. And my only caveat on it, we do need to look at it in part because they're not intended for permanent use and they require changes in that regard to deal with snow load and that sort of thing. So, and volunteers in policing, if the police wants to put it in the bike rack, I'd be all for it. But if we have 5 volunteers, that's a few more than I thought we had. So I can leave that out for now.
Did you have
Everything
any additional direction on the decarbonization questions?
On what again?
The decarbonization questions that you had in
You
the
know,
beginning.
what I heard from Aaron was they're nearly complete on weatherization and the retrofit program, that shifting more staff time onto that is not going to accelerate it. That was my immediate concern. Other than that, I really would like to see how, what kind of results we're getting in terms of reductions in litter and reducing greenhouse gases. In some ways, a lot of what we do is symbolic and it's good symbolism, but I worry about the amount of time we put into some projects that don't give us the greenhouse gas reductions that other programs might.
Hence my interest in having this sustainability and energy utilization dashboard continued, which I probably should have prefaced to allow everybody to have time to comment on that. So if the 2 of you could, and then I'll come back to you as well. I do think that was something that we invested a bit of time and energy to get originally, and I would hate to lose that. I understand the need to transition it, but I do think that is an important piece of our metrics and accountability. So I would like to advocate for that either being maintained or recreated. Thoughts on that, Councilmember Zabriskie?
I agree.
Thank you. Moving to Vice Mayor Henderson.
Okay, thank you. First, just thank you for all of the work plan updates. I'm always really amazed every quarter that we get this. One thing that I'm hoping that we'll see more of, and I think we're clearly moving in that direction, we've talked about this, I think, at the last work plan update as well, is just an outcome indicator alongside each process completion percentage, and really the measurable community result to date. So homes weatherized, deed restrictions recorded, tons of food recovered, households enrolled. I think the plastic water bottles in the water bottle filling station was an amazing example of that. The number of contractors trained was also another incredible example of that. And for me, it just gives council and the public a really clear signal of whether our organizational momentum is actually translating into community benefit and into the results that our community is ultimately holding us accountable for. At the end of the day, a lot of our community doesn't care about all of the internal process. They want the outcomes. They want more houses. They want more affordable houses. They want different housing options. They want to see XYZ land preserved, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're really held accountable to. And I just want to say, I know that this can feel like a big staff lift, I am willing to sit down with staff. I am willing to draft outcomes for these. I do a ton of this in my professional career. I have taught doctoral courses at UC Berkeley and at UNR, literally of how do you develop outcomes and process metrics that ladder up to goals. I think that this is so incredibly important for that transparency and accountability that I will devote as much time as is needed to work with staff on that. I think I've heard from others, council members Zabriskie, others, that they also want to see these outcomes. So I just wanted to state that in front of everyone, and I'm happy to support on that. And I think another just kind of point on that, the problem with process only is that a task can be 100% complete without any community benefit whatsoever. And conversely, a task at 20% complete might have already produced measurable impact in the community. And we really owe it to the community to show both of those things. I think we have some great examples, housing as a priority area. We have great policy completions this cycle, right? Home growth housing, density bonus, rooted renters, genuine wins. But now it's, okay, how many actual deed restricted units? How many homes, et cetera? I already talked about some of our environmental sustainability, like the filling station network and contractors. And now as we're moving through different policies, like how many homes weatherized and how many heat pump incentives dispersed and how much decarbonization funding reaching our income qualified households. I was really concerned about our evacuation and wildfire and other natural disaster mitigation based on the work plan update, because it's all just process, right? And so given some of the information that was given to us, I was like, oh, there's actually more behind this that we didn't get just from that work update, like the additional trainings that are planned, et cetera. Okay, just other things broadly. I absolutely support tiny homes being added into the bike rack. I'm gonna talk about this in my council report a little bit, but I was just in Denver last week with 19 other elected officials from across the nation, and we visited they call it a micro community, a tiny home community. It was 44 individual tiny homes on what was a city-owned parking lot. They converted their parking lot, and this was transitional housing to bring their unhoused inside, along with two larger sort of facilities on site that provided, washers, dryers, full kitchen, all of the wraparound support services, mental health, physical health, doctors, et cetera. I also support Councilmember Paul Levy's suggestion to add food trucks into the bike rack. The Bee City, thank you for being here, and you've been here for a really long time already. So this really aligns with our environmental stewardship values that this council has consistently championed. I mean, it's up there, one of our 5 priorities. And so I love that it's being driven by y'all and like taking that initiative and knowing exactly what needs to get done rather than just a top-down town initiative. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you being here tonight. So I support that. The only other thing that I'm interested in exploring, and I don't know if this is an add to the bike rack, I don't know if it's just some conversation. A lot of questions I get related to housing and development in general are like, but how long does it take to get through? And I'm always like, that's a really good question. It sort of depends on what it is and, what's going on with the applicant and how complete the application or things like that are. So this is another kind of learning from Denver. We met with the mayor of Denver, and when he came in 2.5 years ago or so, their average time for permitting from start to getting a permit to build something, this included homes, businesses, other types of things, was 3 years. So they said, let's reduce it by 20%. And they did, and they were like, this is amazing. And the developers were like, 20% off 3 years is still really awful. We're not going to work in your town. And so we said, okay, we're going to move to a 180-day shot clock for all of our permitting. There were a few things that they did exclude. And if that metric isn't achieved, developers can appeal for up to $10,000 in their fees to be refunded, and staff have an accountability check-in with the mayor. And what's been amazing is that everyone in town hall, city hall there, has come to really love it. Like they all feel like they're pushing in the same direction. I'm not saying this is the exact right model for Truckee, but I would love some space for conversation around like, what are our actual goals related to, is it 180 days? Is it 90 days? Denver's also moving towards a 90-day for affordable housing, specifically a 90-day shot clock. So I don't know if that's like a bike rack thing or if I just don't know enough on exactly how long different things take, but I don't know that we have a formal like trigger like that. And that does help get things built and housing that our community needs.
The question I would ask staff is, do we have a metric that we could look at as council of how long do these processes take, just for our own education to start?
Yeah, I think we're talking about a few different things. So we have state mandates for housing projects with planning permit land use applications. Danielle and Jenna can speak more broadly. I think Jenna might still be here, or Danielle, more broadly about those, but we meet all of those deadlines, and those are pretty short review periods, 60 days for the first. Danielle's going to go to the thing. But we meet all of those in terms of our responses. So, I mean, we can send you, maybe it would be helpful to send a list about what is state mandated from a land use process. And again, we're meeting all those deadlines. The other piece of this is the building permit review, which is separate. And that is where it really does depend on the project, the size of the project, how long the development, if we get one round of comments back, it is not uncommon that it's several months that they keep that before the response. So the triggers are a little bit more difficult to define. We could probably find some averages of what our first round of comments are, particularly those that we have a couple different ways. We have some in-house and outsourced plan checks, but we have targets for those two that are all published on our webpage for the different types of permits that come in on the building side.
Yeah,
Danielle, is there anything you want to add? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's true. So we do have all the building permit turnaround times posted as goals that we have, and that was worked on several years ago with the Contractors Association. And then during COVID, we adjusted that based on what was happening with our workload and republished it then, and now we're back to where we were pre-COVID for our turnaround times. That's an easy thing for us to do, is to sort of publish that. With the land use permits, it's just more difficult because it really does depend on what the project is. But I would say in the last year, we've gotten much faster because we now have more senior planners who are working on land use permits. So even something like the hotel project has been about a 4-month turnaround. And then with the housing project that we have in the Jorga Ranch specific plan, that one was ready to go in 3 months, and the developer pulled back to kind of work on some additional stuff. So we are much faster than we've probably ever been with that. And we could do a presentation, and maybe as part of our annual CDD report, just where we're at with sort of the bigger projects.
I think that would be fantastic, and especially now that we're launching Cloud Permit, I think this is a really interesting metric to track on how that implementation is shifting that process.
I totally agree. And I just wanted to, sorry, Councilmember Paulvey. Well, I just wanted to add, I think too, like there are things out of our control. If a developer pulls back, or if they get something from us and they sit on it for 60 days, that's on them. That's not on us. And just to be clear, the Denver 180-day shot clock, it's when an application is in the city's possession, not when it's back with the applicant for revisions. But I think that kind of presentation would be really helpful, because when people ask me, well, how long? I'm like, I can't say, we have a 90-day shot clock, or, I don't actually have an answer. So maybe some of it's information as well. Sorry, Councilmember Paulvey.
No, I was going to add, I mean, I think the work that Mr. Diamond's doing with the cloud permit stuff, I think we're going to get more of those answers and significantly more clarity as that system rolls out. Maybe a nice head nod of yes would be more reassuring from the audience. For the record, we did get a head nod of yes.
Well, and maybe some of the hesitation is, Cloud Permit right now is only building permits. Yep. So it will give us some data on building permits. The land use side and the planning side is not rolled out yet. So I think that was maybe some of the hesitation with the yes, is it's only a piece of what I think you're talking about. We do have a new permit tech that started today, and the plan is going to be, I think we finalized the plan, but he's going to actually train with David on Cloud Permit. So those simpler ones that we're launching now, he can focus on that during the busy season. And then when we get through the construction season, get trained in our other pre-existing system that is still handling the more complicated ones, or we'll have those that are currently live will stay in that system until they're closed out. But that will also help expedite some of those simpler plans, simpler applications.
And Jen, just to add to that, I mean, our goal is to be able to post on our website sort of what our running turnaround times are for building permits by different types. So that's part of what we hope Cloud Permit can offer us, is not just a dashboard for the contractors to be able to go in and see sort of the status of their own individual permits, but just a bigger picture of what's happening with the status of those permits.
Thank you.
Okay, did you have anything else, Vice Mayor?
Vice Mayor, can I clarify a couple things just so I make sure that we are understanding and then the council is supportive, the whole council, or at least two. In terms of percentage of complete, were you wanting something, or the kind of the metric, the status metric, you want something other than, like we say, estimated 80% complete?
I want an actual outcome, not a process.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that.
So an outcome is a measurable result that we can actually deliver. The number of homes that have been deed restricted is an outcome. Developing an ordinance for that is a process.
So some of our action items are develop a single-use water bottle ordinance, and we would say that was 100% complete.
Right. And then this many, so the water bottle filling station was a great example. Like, this many stations have actually been deployed in the community. 23, right?
42.
54 contractors trained, whatever the numbers were. Those are actual outcomes.
So with the previous conversation, I think maybe I misinterpreted that request to be going forward, and that's part of why we now have the goal, and these are the metrics we're measuring. How I'm hearing you describe it tonight, there's an expectation that we're retroactively going back and developing it for outstanding items, and I want to make sure I'm hearing that that's what you're interested in, and the council's supportive of that.
I can tell you what I'm interested in. It's when it says update, I would like something to show up after the colon, even if it says no change. And I can look up in that little box and I can see it says 2027. I read 2027 as a completion date, not a start date.
Yeah,
So,
I think that might be different, though, than what Council, or Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, Henderson
Yes.
is asking.
Yeah, I think it's a miscommunication. I think you and I are communicating perfectly. And
No,
okay.
a
Yeah.
pretty simple process to add we'll probably use a graphic, and it's just going to be cut and paste for no update, kind of like we have for completed. That's not, if that makes it easier for council and community to understand. I'm just wanting to ensure Vice Mayor's wanting some retroactive metrics included that maybe we just haven't captured because we weren't thinking of it that way, and we're trying to do that going forward.
That's such a great clarification. I really appreciate it. I'm not asking anyone to go back and sort of manufacture data that wasn't collected. Like, if we don't have outcome data for certain things, then we don't have outcome data for certain things. But I think what I'm really asking for is going forward, as we're working on tasks, if before new tasks go into the work plan, we really define what done looks like in terms for our community, not just in process terms. So when we adopt, the Q4 update or set like the next sort of cycle, each task comes with the process milestone, the outcome indicator, and I don't want you to reconstruct it retroactively, but I do think there are things in this work plan where we do have the data, especially some of the things around some of our housing programs, for example, and probably several others as well.
Can I definitely hear you, Vice Mayor. I think it's a little tricky, and this is where as I'm thinking through this process versus outcomes, is some of the items in the work plan our process. And then it's also, this is always like, we have a lot of different documents. So where is the best place for some of this to live? Because I think sometimes it's, create homegrown housing. And so now that is complete for the work plan. We don't really have any outcomes yet. But when we have our housing update at the end of the year or, whenever, that would then show the data there. So I guess I think outcomes to understand are important, but I guess I don't know that it would always make sense for it to be in this work plan. I guess I'm struggling with that a little bit.
I think if you don't know the outcome you're trying to achieve with a policy, there's a problem with the policy, quite candidly. If you don't have a goal that you're trying to get to, then you're just like in this wonky policy world, and you can't tell people. And it's not like wait for the outcomes and then say what we did. It's no, what's the outcome you're trying to achieve? Because that's what we're going to then measure. If we say we have a huge goal for deed restricted housing, right? Councilmember Pallavi and I are working on funding mechanisms for that in the work group. We know that we need to put together a $55 million fund for deed restricted housing for local workers and local working families, right? So the outcome is that $55 million fund. Another outcome is how many deed restricted homes. But you have to set those metrics in the beginning. You can't just say, we're going to see what the outcomes are and then report on those. That just goes, I mean, it's just like best practice for how you set outcomes and measure them, honestly.
I thought we were already doing that.
I think we are, but we're not doing it universally. And I'm just asking for us to do it going forward and for things that are here where we know we have outcomes we're trying to achieve and can add them in.
And I think most of our, when we, like Councilmember Romack was saying, when we get the reports on that actual item, we get that data metric. It's just not necessarily showing up in this consistently, is what you're.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe sorry to not belabor this completely.
Yeah,
but
we should move on.
I think what Councilmember Henderson's trying to get at is a desired outcome can be in the work plan, right? And the desired outcome that is contained in the work plan is both the process and some type of future expectation of desired outcome. This is what we're going to measure in the outcome, right? And then as things get retired from the actual work plan, because the process has now been completed, unfortunately, and I am going to say this out loud, we might need another document or some way, which maybe it's the sustainability dashboard. I mean, I was there, right? That's starting to get those things that is tracking those outcomes over time, right? So that there's continuity between them. I think that's the link between what we're trying to achieve here.
And I assume some of the resistance or concern is that some of these outcomes we're not in control of, and that the deed restriction fund is a perfect example. We can come up with a policy, we can come up with a way to fund it, but we still need the community to create that, right? We're not in control of that piece. So the outcomes, we can be aspirational, but some of them we have no control over. And that's probably kind of uncomfortable from a staff position.
There's a little bit of that. I think I was more in the minds, I wasn't quite connecting and probably misunderstood that Rooted Renters, for example, we just did a whole staff report and an update and all the metrics were in there. I wasn't necessarily understanding you wanted that replicated in some form in here as well.
I don't know that we do.
I do.
Oh, you do.
I'll
Sorry.
say the outcome matters to me
Sorry.
more than the process. Again, the community cares more about the outcome than the process at the end of the day. They could care less if a policy is 80% done.
So here's maybe a compromise. I think the name sustainability dashboard is actually a misnomer. And if we just rename it like the town results dashboard, like maybe that solves all of your problems, or at the very minimum, it takes out the way that we're positioning it, because there's a lot more things that maybe you could call sustainability or not sustainability that you're currently putting in the dashboard. Other departments can contribute to a town dashboard. It doesn't just have to be the KTG sustainability dashboard, right? Like, why aren't we having those outcomes and utilizing them across the organization at a higher level, much more so than just measuring our greenhouse gas emissions? That's, I think, what the nexus is, right? And it's already there, and so how you adapt it, that's not my job. But maybe that's the hard, maybe that captures what we're all trying to do. I'm not discounting the fact that we need to understand what our what our desired outcome is. I think that's a little bit of maybe just the language change is we should have a desire. I'm not opposed to having a desired outcome. Desired outcome will simply be ability to deed restrict single family homes for the next 30 years, right? That can be an outcome and there can be a number associated with it. But at the end of the day, things are going to drop off the work plan, so we need a place to capture them, right? If the work plan is sort of the in working document. So however y'all want to take that, maybe that's just an observation.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I love the idea. I mean, we've talked about this before of having a much more comprehensive like accountability metrics dashboard. So I absolutely love that. The thing that I don't want to have happen is the next quarterly update comes and I see all these process things. And then I literally have to go to the dashboard and compare every single one to see where we are on outcomes. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not going to do that. I don't have the time to do that and to have those things and constantly be going back and forth. That's why I do want them in one place.
Well, I think that could be part of our quarterly update. I mean, this quarterly update was 4 or 5 attachments that we all looked through. So it could be part of that. I do think it's really important because it does hold us all, or, you know, the public's ability to see our progress on all of these goals. So I do like that. But we are expanding this task, and already staff had said that it was going to have to be put in the bike rack, which I was a little perplexed by. It's like, why do we have to put something in the bike rack that we currently have? So what are our options in moving forward with this? Because clearly these results are, and being able to track what we're doing and seeing the impact of it is really important to all of us.
So I want to make a quick clarification on the dashboards. We have 2 dashboards on the Keep Truckee Green website right now, and only 1 can't be transferred. We do still have our municipal operations greenhouse gas emissions dashboard, and so that's tracking our town facility energy use, all of our fleet fuel emissions, all of that. That's already on a third-party site, so that will remain available. It's just the broader dashboard, our sort of what we call the sustainability dashboard now, that tracks a variety of metrics, both for town programs and outside programs, that we can't directly transfer. In terms of the bigger picture dashboard question, I will have to hand that off, but I did want to clarify, we will still have a greenhouse gas reduction dashboard.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think we have an answer for you tonight. We're just daylighting that. I think putting it in the bike rack and giving us some direction to see if there's other solutions is probably the best we're going to be able to do on that at the moment, until we better understand what's happening with the website and what other options might be out there. I do think, though, I also, not to belabor this, I just don't want there to be disappointment if we can avoid it when we get to the next quarterly update. I think a dashboard for these metrics is great. There are programs and applications out there that we have talked about. We just haven't had capacity to really research those and see what would work. So I'm 100% confident we won't have that going for the next quarterly update. I also think even if we do have it going, it sounds like, Mayor, you had suggested it could be another attachment to the work plan. I'm not hearing that would satisfy. That's not what Vice Mayor is asking for. She wants it in one document. She can look at one line item for, and I'm hoping I'm not misrepresenting, but this is what I think I'm hearing.
I think you're hearing me.
Yeah, one line item that
recap.
says rooted renters, this is the data. So another attachment isn't going to meet that goal.
I think where I'm at is not everything we do is in the work plan. Like, that's where I'm struggling, like, where is the best place? So I like this idea of more of like which I know is more work and that's going to have to be added to the bike rack, but a townwide dashboard. And, I was just trying to scroll, Rooted Renters says it's complete. So it's completed now according to this work plan based on what we had in here, but we're still doing it. And then I could even think like snow plowing our roads in the winter, that's not anything we have in the work plan, but is there something with reduction in greenhouse gas emissions because now we're using electric snow plows in 5 years or whatever? And so I guess I don't know that it all needs to be in the work plan. That is where I'm struggling, and I understand what you're saying, but if we're going to track town metrics, it seems like it doesn't necessarily make the most sense to be in here.
I think I like Jen's idea of how about staff comes back with some options, because we've now talked about this for probably 25 minutes, and I don't think we're coming to an answer, to be quite honest. I do think there are some like pretty easy integrations where you're like, if you're already tracking it on a website, you can pull it into staff reports and certain things. Like, this doesn't need to be some overly complicated, like, local government process that feels really burdensome. Just to be really candid, this doesn't have to be a big lift. And that's why I was saying I will also literally sit down and help write outcomes if there's consternation or confusion about that. I'm willing to put in like a lot of time to do this. And I agree with you. There are some things where, yeah, I mean, the policy's done, but the program's not, right? And again, the outcomes are what matter to people who live in our community. So I think we should just leave it at that. Like, staff comes back with some different options.
Right. Clear as mud. I appreciate the deliberation and the discussion. I appreciate the making sure that we have a way to show that accountability to our community and our constituents. I think we have unanimous support for the recommendation to move the senior housing into the work plan, unanimous support for the Bee City adoption program. Thank you very much, everybody.
I have a question on the food trucks. Dave, okay. Councilmember Pallavi had brought that up, and there never was any discussion, and our last discussion gave me an opportunity to think about it. I don't know, is this coming from the county's health department, concerns about food trucks, or is it from the police, or the police having trouble?
I'm hearing from constituents. That's where I bring it up from. And then when I brought it to staff, they were like, remember, you told us not to work on it. So that's why I'm just bringing it back up. Are they? And I think staff's hearing about it too a little bit, but I don't know.
Are they complaints or expressions of appreciation?
Primarily confusion and or complaints.
Okay.
At least my feedback.
And this item is recommended, was recommended for the bike rack, but we also recognize that we have strong collaboration now built in to our system with Paul Brancroft heading that department. So if we're comfortable with putting this in the bike rack so that we can allow.
See, I don't even know if it rises to the level of a bike rack. That's what I'm getting at.
So
what are the complaints?
Just to clarify, Paul's position is related to tiny homes. I think, Councilmember, you're asking about food trucks, so there wouldn't be that collaboration with Paul on that topic.
That's what I was referring
to. He doesn't use
for the
food trucks?
clarification.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's the new, that's live work. So the food trucks, I think it was probably a year and a half to 2 years ago that we did bring back a draft ordinance to help clarify food truck operations and all that encompasses. At the time, I think there was a feeling that there wasn't enough maybe outreach or conversation happening with the handful of food truck operators that we have in the community. And so we were asked to put a pin in that. We're kind of like, let it be and revisit it later. I would have to go back and look at, you might have asked at the time for it to get added to the bike rack and we weren't as efficient with it, but it has been identified now as the questions have come up from either people with complaints about where food trucks are operating or food truck operators themselves wondering what the rules are. So it was an opportunity to highlight that again, that it's not in the bike rack if you would like it to be in there and still be on our radar to address.
Is it because we have ambiguities in the zoning code?
Yes.
Thank you.
And we had recently successfully moved the sidewalk vending out of the bike rack into the work plan.
Yeah,
We've progressed that, so it seems like this is the natural.
That's fine.
Next
That's
step.
fine. I was trying to find out why.
Okay, so we have agreement for that. And it looks like there's some conversation. Are we good? Do you need more clarification, staff?
Having terrible time with my microphone tonight. I'm sorry. I think we are good. We have the 3 new items that were added to the bike rack, plus the 2.5 items that were added tonight with the collaboration of the housing hub, just recognizing it may be broader than tiny
Just
homes.
tiny homes, yeah.
Consensus on B city designation, so we'll be moving that in to the work plan. Is there a council representative that would like to sit on the committee for that? I'm seeing points down to Councilmember Zabriskie, and I'm seeing a head nod.
Are you willing to accept that position? Yes. Microphone.
Yes, Councilmember Zabriskie has agreed to do that. And then I didn't hear objection to adding senior housing into the work plan. I heard one affirmative and no other objections.
No, I clarified
Okay.
with, we're in unanimous support of that.
Okay, and then the add-on is that we're going to work on figuring out how to pull the data that's in pre-existing staff reports into the work plan, potentially with some options of how that could work.
We look forward to your creative solutions, Jen.
Okay.
We do not need a motion for this item. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions and deliberation. Thank you to the community for listening in through all of that. We do still have a closed session item after this, but I'd love to hear from my fellow council members on their council reports. Councilmember Zabriskie, you want to start us?
I attended the George Tickner commemoration ceremony with council members Romack, and then, the mayor eventually
How do
was able
you
to make
say the tribe's name again?
Delbayumaway?
No.
The Wallapai.
Wallapai. Thank you. The tribal name.
Oh, yeah, then met with a Hualapai. You go an H sound, then you go W, Hualapai. I had to practice. And that was informative. They're looking how to use, I think it's about 202 acres of land that they own at Airport Flats, which is out just past Old Greenwood on the south side of I-80. And then there was the TNT TMA meeting, which reviewed the winter park and ride for Palisades, North Star, and Sugar Bowl. A relative success, given that it was a shorter season and fewer operating days, so absolute numbers were down. But I think it is proving to be a success. It's reducing traffic on the two highways. Sugar Bowl also has a program, but theirs ended up being about $110 per rider. They're going to try and fix that. Essentially, it's been employees. They hadn't gotten the word out enough to skiers. Palisades, in contrast, was $28 per rider from Truckee, and North Star was operating at $12 per rider, which I think more than offsets their parking costs than trying to build more parking spaces, not to mention the traffic congestion. And then the fourth thing was a Prosser Firewise community looking at Summer Education Day and Summer Cleanup Day for defensible space. That's it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Henderson.
Okay, for maybe the first time ever, I have slides. But I promise I'm going to keep it really quick because I know we want to get to closed session and move. And I'm getting some looks. I do, because the big thing, so one, the second housing revenue meeting with Councilmember Pallavi, which I think went really well. But two, I wanted to just share some of the things that we learned about in Denver. Not everything translates to here, but there are pieces that could. So I just wanted to give you a few really, really quick tidbits of information. So let's move right on. There's only 4. I promise it's really fast. So we already talked about this one, their model for housing the unhoused. They have this all-in mile-high micro-community model. These links at the bottom do work. So Jen will send these slides to you guys. But Elati Village is a community of 44 individual tiny homes that we visited. Denver has 1,200 total housing units, obviously really, really big city. They had a really big unhoused population, especially during COVID. Within it's on a city-owned parking lot. They brought in these different homes, tiny homes. They do have gating around the entire thing, both for privacy and security. They want people who move here to feel safe. They provide wraparound services. As I mentioned, they have a couple of different facilities on site. They have community gardens here. They work with a nonprofit that comes in, does gardening with the residents. teaches them how to cook with things that they've grown, mental health services, etc. And they really started this under a mayor's emergency declaration, but establishing sites first, closing encampments, a lot of like tent city type encampments permanently, but really providing alternatives to people and not just trying to displace or move people. Okay, next one. So permitting reform, we already talked about this one, so I'm not going to go into this at all. But there is this picture here that you can see. They have some really cool public art along 16th Street. They've done this huge economic revitalization program, and public art's a huge piece of that. I'll show you on the next piece. This has some of those metrics on the shot clock and things like that, and I'll just leave that for you. Again, if you go to that link at the bottom on their permitting improvements and innovations, it talks specifically about trying to process permits faster to get housing built, ultimately. Okay, next slide. I told you I'd be fast. Economic revitalization and public safety. Councilmember Pallavi, I thought you might be really interested in this one. They've really reinvested in their downtown, sort of this holistic strategy, different types of infrastructure upgrades, so pedestrian malls. You can see in this second picture, 16th Street is a street that is they have closed it off to cars. It is now walkable, bikeable only, and they have free shuttles that go up and down it constantly. And they have different types of seating, like even this curved seating, and just different fun ways to activate public spaces. Public art is a really big piece of that. Their main transit hub, Union Station, obviously a much bigger scale than us, but we have a transit hub that is going to be opening. And I thought something that was really neat, this picture on the right side, the mixed-use public hub, they have all these tiny shops inside and local business owners and things, again, to make it's not just transit, it's activating the space, and it's actually bringing people in. They had really clean washrooms in there. I mean, water bottle filling stations. It was pretty amazing. They really talked about some of the safety because this is where they had some encampments, and so they really worked with their police officers and then ended up moving to outreach teams and being able to work with law enforcement as well, but outreach teams trained in different types of mental health issues, things like that. You'll see some of this on the next slide on public art, but they have like orange Adirondack chairs and beautiful trees and different types of public seating and these really wide promenades that just like really invite people into these spaces. And we, have an amazing, Downer Pass Road, like our historic downtown is so incredible. And even still, I think we have some opportunities to sort of activate and engage further. Okay, last slide. Public art. This they really see as civic investment. I wish all the bee folks stayed. This little one at the bottom is actually teaching everyone all about bees. There were placards there, and inside it's a gymnasium for kids, like as if they're going through a hive. And it was like very tall. It was really big. It was really cool. This is some of their other public art. Every single alley off 16th Street, they have public art. This is just an example of it. I thought that was cool. They're even activating as you walk past their alleyways. And at the bottom here, this picture, I don't know why we didn't think about this, but when the bottom floor of the artist lofts was empty for like 3 years or whatever it was, we didn't do anything with it. And what they did here, they had empty spaces downtown, and they literally just put like a false wall a few feet behind the glass and put something in related to the city's history. And I thought that was so cool because then people want to stop and peer in. And again, it's like activating it and drawing people down. So really telling about Denver's diverse history, its indigenous roots, its immigrant communities, et cetera. That's it. I told you I'd go fast. And you'll have these, and I hope you'll go to some of the links and take a peek.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Henderson, and thank you for all the dedication and time and effort and energy you're putting into that abundance program and bringing that back to the town of Truckee. It's fantastic. We're so fortunate. Okay, Councilmember Romack.
I did not prepare a slideshow, but I have an interpretive dance. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
That'd be great.
Next council meeting. George Tickner celebration with Councilmember Zabriskie. And Councilmember Zabriskie, I wanted to tell you, you did a great job. You highlighted a lot of the staff that were there and participated in that. So thank you for acknowledging everyone. I also thought it was fun to hear a lot about the history and incorporation of the town. So it was nice to hear some of those stories. Also participated in the How to Run for Office workshops that David Diamond facilitated from the Truckee Chamber and Contractors Association. There were a lot of folks in that room, so that was great, and shared, I think all of us have participated in past panels, but just sharing what it is to run for office and then what does it take once you're elected to office. Went to the Dia de los Niños event at the Art Center downtown. Again, kudos to town staff. Kids got to make buttons of town staff animals. So you got to pick like which animal. So I just thought that was so creative. And then an opportunity to learn about Riley's bird that we now have a button of at my house. So it was a super cool event and just really engaging with lots of community members and families. So that was fantastic. Met with the Walupai tribe along with Mayor and Councilmember Zabriskie. And then last week also attended the Tahoe Economic Summit down on the South Shore. Hillary was there, Carissa was there. And just the keynote speaker was Kate Gordon, was one of them. And I know, Mayor, you are a big fan. But
she's amazing.
Yeah, she had great things to say, a lot of interesting tidbits and things to think about. And then another keynote speaker was a gentleman with UNR and talking a lot about the development in Nevada with Tesla factories and tech and workforce and all of that. So it was great. And then I think one of my favorite parts is always just networking and talking with SBC and the JPA and lots of organizations. So a fun day. And that was it.
Thank you, Councilmember Romack. Great community connection and all of that. Councilmember Pallavi.
Yeah, thank you. Quickly, we did our housing revenue measure working group. We had our second one, as Vice Mayor said. We have postponed our third and final meeting until after some things shake out in June. There's a lot going on, apparently, on the June ballots and all sorts of other places that are well out of our control that will affect sort of whatever path this group goes down. So you will hear back from that group, but probably not until the fall is my guess at this point. So just a little update there. Very, very excellent group. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Paco Lindsay, who we all know and anybody in the community knows. Paco is sort of the resident retired perennial ballot measure champion, and he is going to be executing a very swift and efficient Yes on Measure K renewal campaign over the next few weeks that you might see. I somehow got wrangled in, and we've raised a pretty good budget in a really short amount of time. And so thanks to those who helped, but also just wanted to give big thanks to Paco for doing that volunteer work and just trying to get those ballots to yes so that we continue to have the funding we need to maintain our roads, bridges, waterways, and there's something else on there that I'm spacing on, but there's a lot of words on the yes on Measure K for things. But that should be great. So that will be, you've probably all already gotten your ballots, as a matter of fact. So wanted to get that out there. And then, yes, I do have one announcement that I'd like to make. I'm proud to say and excited and looking forward to running another campaign for my third term, running for town council to hopefully be reelected and stay up here and continue guiding the vision and execution of this community. So I'll leave it at that, but I do plan on rerunning and look forward to engaging in a third campaign. So thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations or condolences, depending upon how you look at it.
I'm excited. So
we're excited.
Thank you.
We're excited to hear that. Okay. Yes. Enjoyed our time with the Walupai Indian tribe as well. Excited. I think I was really impressed with them and how intrigued they were about what our community needs and what the opportunities for that site was. It wasn't just them coming in saying, we're going to do this. How do we make it happen? So that was very refreshing. I had the honor of speaking at the graduation for the 2026 Tech Teens graduates and handing out their certificates. It was really cool to see that group of kids and to hear about all the things that they learned, all the different types of systems and technologies and programs. Really cool. And so thank you again to all of our partner agencies that support that program. The only thing that's sad to me is that my kids didn't get to go through it. I also provided a presentation to the Dem Club on Measure K for our tax renewal for roads, which Councilmember Pallavi just spoke about. It was very well received. And then I attended a gathering with our visiting state parks division of boating and waterways directors, staff, and commissioners were all there. And this was in advance to their recent commission meeting that was up here in Truckee. I think the Sierra Sun did a short article about it. It was very exciting to see that happen up in our little community. And then lastly, I'll say that I'm incredibly proud of our council priorities and all the success that we've achieved over the last several years up here. What this community and our staff has accomplished over the last several years is really extraordinary, as evidenced by our long quarterly work plan update this evening. Again, thank you for your patience, everybody. And as you know, my passion for this work runs really deep. So I also have decided that I want to continue my work and my service on Truckee Town Council. So I will be running another re-election campaign for a third term as well. I am more committed than ever to continuing work on our vital programs and bringing them to their full potential. And that's what really motivates me up here, from protecting the environment to ensuring the safety and affordability of our community and all the work that we do towards those goals here, and documenting the progress on and the metrics for those goals. So I look forward to having conversations with the community about how we can continue protecting the heart and soul of this community that we all love. And, working up here with all of you is an incredible honor, and I hope to do it for 4 more years. So with that, I think we will adjourn to closed session. I will open it up one more time for public comment. If anybody has anything on either of our 2 closed session agenda items, you can provide public comment on that now. Seeing none, we'll close this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, and adjourn to closed session.